We have 2 times that you can public comment during our meeting. The first public comment, which is under section 3, those public comments are reserved for anything on tonight's agenda. The second public comment under number 9, you can make a public comment about any issue that you want. Okay, so with that being said, number 3, public comment. Any public comments tonight about anything on the agenda? And I'll just ask you to come up. Fred, your arm was first. Just come up, state your name and address, and make sure you talk loudly, please.
Never a problem. Good evening. Fred Clark, Crystal Terrace, Upper Mount Bethel. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. For this public comment session, I will paraphrase portions of my testimony to the Northampton County Council on April 6, 2023, as they reviewed and voted on the renewal of the LERTA application for RPL. Quote, on December 11, 2017, the Upper Mount Bethel Board of Supervisors approved Ordinance 2017-04, asserting that the property now under development as River Point Logistics Park, containing land zoned I-2 and I-3, was qualified for LERTA treatment, as they fit the criteria to be designated a part of certain deteriorated areas of industrial, commercial, and other business property. It is important to note that the ordinance is silent on what specific characteristics constitute the deterioration of the fields used for agriculture or the undeveloped woodlands of the RPL property, the Zone I-2 property, which accounts for approximately 75% of the land. It is also silent on what specific characteristics make Upper Mount Bethel an economically depressed community. Since I did not live in Upper Mount Bethel at the time, I am unaware whether these definitions were ever supported by the Board of Supervisors at the public meeting on the ordinance or discussed when the Northampton County Council reviewed and approved the related ordinance 633 on April 15, 2018. A cursory read of the LERTA law makes it seem that it might be applied for mitigating the economic impact of deteriorated properties like the former Portland Generating Station, specifically the section of RPL Zone I-3. Remediating this clearly industrial property to make it more productive and attractive again could benefit Upper Mount Bethel, depending on what businesses come in. The original LERTA approval seems to have been predicated on the blight and deterioration of Upper Mount Bethel industrial properties, which was then extended to farm and woodlands, which is a leap of logic I challenge. Section 4 of the LERTA law, deteriorated areas, refers to 2 laws that provide the guidance as to the criteria for setting the boundaries of such areas. Urban Redevelopment Law, PL 991, number 385, and Neighborhood Assistance Act, PL 636, number 292. These laws were targeted to urban areas or areas of excessive unemployment, which Upper Mount Bethel is not, to the best of my knowledge. Before the council votes on the extension of the LERTA, I would like to hear specific criteria from these laws that were used and what facts supported their use. Close quote. In the council meeting, one of the council members used the "we've done this before" as a justification, which I took to mean applied LERTA to farmlands and woodlands before. A cursory review of relevant laws would lead one to question this practice. I applaud Lamont LaCour for bringing this issue up again for more rigorous review and possible changes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Fred. Anyone else, public comment? Tara, go ahead. You're up.
I'm sorry.
Charlie, we'll get to you next.
And this is not on the agenda. Can I ask for an exception to bring this up now because I'm expected to be at another meeting and I didn't realize?
Yeah, that's fine. Tara, just state your full name.
Of course. Tara Mezzanotte. I live in Knowlton Township, and I'm here representing Knowlton and Hardwick Township as their I-80 and I-80 NJDOT and their 611 PennDOT liaison. I'm here tonight to remind Supervisor Birmingham and let everybody else know that Mayor Adele Stars of Knowlton Township and Mayor Kevin Duffy of Hardwick Township, they were the original people that came over to Pennsylvania and partnered with you guys as a municipality about the actions that were going on in the gap, and the fact that you didn't know that this project was possibly coming and the impacts that could happen to you. Since Mayor Stars and Duffy have since retired out of their positions, my husband and I, we have been providing technical support to them since 2019. The municipalities decided to appoint my husband and I as official liaisons, and that's been going well for the past year. The reason I'm here now to bring this up is to see if you guys might want to do the same. And I didn't want to come and give you an update until February, March, let you guys get settled in and sort through some other things. But there's two things that just came up that make this timely. One, the retaining wall project, which is different. Rock wall project up here, retaining wall project down here. Road in between. That now the DOT is putting forth local official briefings on that, and despite us informing them responsibly that Pennsylvania stakeholders, they have a list of stakeholders, same ones for the Rockwall project, should be notified of these meetings. You were not. So I'm here to, it's happening, it's all happening very quickly. I'm here to see if you would like to do the same thing, if I could be available to back up the municipality should one of you not be available for the times that these meetings are happening. I'd be happy to be present, gather information. I don't speak for the municipalities. I remind people of some facts that are factual, but I don't speak for you and offer opinions other than what you've already put in resolutions. That I do bring up. And the second one is Congressman Cartwright just had a meeting about the PennDOT situation on 611. That happened really quickly. Unfortunately, Jersey was not included for that meeting. And you got to kind of give him a pass because he just adopted the Delaware Water Gap area from his district, whereas Congresswoman Wild had included us in everything, and we included her office in everything. So if we were appointed liaisons, we could make sure we're present for the Pennsylvania meetings as well on 611.
So are you the liaison for Knowlton Township?
And Hardwick Township.
And I thought we appointed you a while back to be our liaison. Didn't we do that?
No, I don't. No, I talked about possibly being your liaison to the Lower Delaware Wild and Scenic River Management Council, and we put that off till we were going to get into that in the spring.
Okay.
But no, the answer is no. I'm not an official anything. I'm just like family.
So you would basically go to all the meetings, right?
Yes.
And you would go there to basically inform Upper Mount Bethel Township of what's going on, what the meetings were about.
Yes, and make sure you're aware of these meetings. So if I was the official representative, knowing what's happening on the Jersey side, I would very quickly, I'm going to bring up the fact that you guys know Pennsylvania municipality was included in the local official briefings for the Rockwall project. This isn't even about the retaining wall. I should change that. It's about both the Rockwall project and the retaining wall project. 2 meetings, 2 hours, 1 and 1. So you weren't even included in the Rockwall mitigation project as a stakeholder.
Right.
Yeah.
Supervisors, thoughts on appointing Tara as our liaison?
I'll make a motion we Tara as our liaison for the rockfall and the retaining wall mitigation.
Okay.
What about 611?
And 611 rockfall.
All
And she's
matters,
here all the
all
time.
matters in the Delaware.
She's kept, she's kept us informed and everything else. I think she has a lot of knowledge, and I think we could ask for a better representative.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
And she's just reporting, correct?
Just a liaison.
Okay, she's not making, you're not making any decisions on it?
No, no interest. No,
One-
no,
yeah,
no,
one
no, no,
thing
no,
that-
no, no, no.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Tara.
Thank you. I'll report
Appreciate
back.
it.
Thank you
Great.
very much. Good night.
Good night. Anyone else? Public comment? Charlie, I'm sorry, you were up.
Charles Cole, 6 Riverton Road. Thank you, John. I'd also like to speak to the new business letter of support of Lamont McClure's LERTA. Fred Clark said it all and probably better than what I'm going to say. But you have there, as part of the RPL property, 725 acres of open space that is woods, farm fields, wetlands, steep slopes. And when you look at the law and read what the law says, as Fred said, I'm quoting here now from the Local Economic Revitalization Tax Assistance Act, Public Law 237, number 76, authorizing local taxing authorities to provide for tax exemption for certain deteriorated industrial, commercial, and other business property, and for new construction in deteriorated areas of economically depressed communities. I don't think it applies to that. And I think it's a lousy determination that was made in the first place when it was applied to that I-2 zone. And what Lamont McClure has done is looked at it specifically in terms of encouraging warehouses. And I guess I'd go back one step further, that it shouldn't have even been applied to the I-2 zone. Maybe the compromise position is no warehouses, but I certainly support his rescission, if that's the proper word, of what the motion is to be at County Council. So I second what Fred said, and that's my statement. Thank you.
Charlie. Anyone else public comment? Former Supervisor Teal, come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Robert Teal. I live at 2424 North Delaware Drive, Mount Bethel. I've been a lifelong resident all my life here in this town. I am the current chairman of the Planning Commission. I have been for many, many years, probably 25 or longer than you're all on this board. Tonight I want to talk to you about RPL and the LERTA program that's on your agenda. I'll keep it real simple. I was at the county council meeting the other night, and I heard the discussion. LERTA was originally designed to entice business, to revitalize an area, and we can all go back to 1953 when that power plant was put in here, and we can all agree that is defunct. That is defunct. It's down. It's no good anymore. We've had the misery of looking at those 400-foot smokestacks since 1953. The people in New Jersey and Knowlton Township raised so much hell about that power plant and the coal fire that went over there. The ash fallout was incredible. And that's what helped close that down. Now we have an opportunity. I know I was there when Mr. LaCour, Executive LaCour, asked to have the LERTA program rescinded. That would be a great mistake. We need that as a tool to attract businesses. And we're on the verge of having some really good companies come here. Very, very close. And we need all the tools we can or we're going to be sitting in this garage for the next 50 years. We have a NID in place. And the NID was designed while we were having the loader program in place, that the NID would help supplement us in not only finances, but $2 million for a new municipal building to be built up at the park. $1 million for a new environmental educational facility to be put down at our preserve. Those are the kinds of things that we negotiated in the NID. And a tremendous amount of millions of dollars going towards our environmental, our emergency services. I keep wanting to speak into the mic too. Sorry. Those are the things that we stand a chance on losing, not gaining. How much money is the county going to make? And for years it's always been said up here in this locality, the county really doesn't care about us. Up here on the end, I hate to say that, but that's the rumors and that's the way it really is. Too many times they've forgotten about Mount Bethel. I heard them refer to Mount Bethel the other night at the county commission like we were the evil people. Oh, it's up there in Mount Bethel. They're doing that. They're doing that. Too bad. I'm tired of hearing how bad we are and what we shouldn't have in this town. Let us decide. If you guys decide to rescind or go along with the Montlacour's business, that's the way it is. And I'll have to say that I agree with your decisions. I don't like it, but that's the way it is because you're in place now. But you will lose more than you're going to gain. There's millions, $14 million at stake, and the school district. The county's not going to see any of those gains on taxes for a long, long time. The more you hold it up, the more good users we're going to lose. We've already lost a couple of really good, fine companies, a tech company, of other companies that could give us employment and a good tax base. So for God's sakes, think about what you're doing before you do it. John, you said the other night, we can't stop it. Why not work with them? Why get something the best out of a bigger bang for our dollar? Make this happen, gentlemen, lady and gentlemen. Make it happen for our town. Don't throw stones at them when you can't stop it. It's already there. Think about what you're going to do before you do this. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you, Bob. Yeah, Fran. And Fran, I'll just ask you to state your name, please.
My name is Frances Vizzacaro. I live at 3001 North Delaware Drive, Mount Bethel, PA. I think there's a little bit of confusion here. I'm not against the LERTA on the side where the electric company is. I am against it on the farmland and woodlands. We have a lot of deer in there. We have a lot of, I even see the fox too. And this is going to take that land away from those poor animals too. Please help us to get our town in order. The LERTA isn't going to really help us until 10 years on down the road, or 15 years on down the road. It's not going to help me. I'm not going to live to see it. And that's one reason why I'm fighting it. It's right in my backyard, and the trucks and dump trucks that we have on 611 now, it's going to be worse. I cross the road to get my mail on 611. I take my life in my hands every time I have to cross the road. And I would hope that people would take into consideration, yes, let's be reasonable about what we build on the farmland. We do not need warehouses. And second of all, has it been in writing that we're going to get this $2 million or $200,000 town from Hector? Is there a document that says that he agrees to this? I mean, we've been told this and that and the other thing, but has anybody seen a document that Hector has really signed something and so it's legal? I could tell you that I'll help you out and I'll give you $1 million. But if I don't sign a contract, I don't have to do it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Fran. Anyone else, public comment? Lynn?
Gotta make it quick here. Lindsay Manzai, I'm with Emergency Management here at Upper Mount Bethel, and I'm proud to see that the EMS, Mr. Doremus is here tonight to speak. You know, it's a positive thing. We need to move forward with EMS. Why I have the floor, I just want to say publicly and personally, I want to thank our fire departments and our auxiliary for a tremendous job last week when we had the storm. I know, Jerry, you thanked them last week, I think, but I want to do it personally for opening up, you know, we opened up the warming shelter. Thankfully, the power, they, you know, rerouted the power a little bit and got a lot of our customers back up in a very short time, which I was very pleased. So I know there was a lot of people working with Chief Pinto, Chief Potters here. They all helped, and also Mount Bethel Fire Company Chief Finnan. They were all part of this, and that's why, you know, I think it's good that we move forward with our shelter in the future. It's really needed in the township. I hope we can come up with the funds and we're able to move forward with our emergency shelter. This was just a warming station, and there were some people that were cold in the borough of Portland, and there were people that were getting cold in Upper Mount Bethel, and I think that's should be a little bit of an eye-opener for our municipality. And hopefully, John, I know you've been working a long time on this shelter. I hope we can, you know, truly get a true emergency shelter up and running in the future. But I wanted to just throw a thank you out to our emergency services and all they do for us.
And thank you, Lynn. And,
Yeah, you're welcome.
And thank you for your service as well, because
You're welcome.
you were out and about all weekend, and I saw you at the the firehouse for
Right.
the warming station, and yeah, and the road crew did a tremendous job, so thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Anyone else, public comment? Judy? And Lynn, I'll give an update at our next supervisor meeting about the emergency shelter, because it is moving forward.
Great. Good news. Thank you.
Cindy, if you could throw that on the agenda, please.
Yeah, what else? Okay, Judith Henkel, 1752 Robin Hood Road. Obviously, we have a difference of opinion in the township, but as people say, elections count. So now we're on the other end of the spectrum. Fred gave a very good definition on LERTA, Charlie also, and so I'm not going to hassle over the land use or the promises made. I'm just looking at LERTA. And LERTA, to me, the electric company's property, all that in I-2 was a buffer zone to them for the electric company. They continued to farm it, so it was productive farmland. We have slopes in there, and steep slopes and ravines and wetlands and woodlands, whatever. I don't consider that to be in need of extra, what do I want to say, that needs more incentive to use development on. And let's face it, back in the 70s when the first, and I know the people that were on zoning, when that first zoning ordinance came about, that property was slapped on there industrial, just plain industrial, because the electric company owned it. What else were you going to do? It was theirs. So now they didn't have to deal with industrial and the rest of the township. So I know Mr. Teal does not agree with me. But I just want to throw one more thing out. I-3 from River Road to the river, which I think in all the different planning things we've had here, 165 acres, the developer himself subdivided that land. And he did an environmental assessment and came into the planning commission for building approvals and all this, that, and the other thing, because he said now that half towards Portland is clean. It's clean, we can build on it, we don't have to wait for remediation on the power plant and the coal fields. He himself is on record of saying that is clean, so that means it's not deteriorated. It was our old ball field, and it was where the osprey nest platform and the eagle pine tree nest, all that, and the boat ramp going down to the river. It's overgrown since they took over, But that again is not to me it doesn't need LERTA. I'll give up the I-3, but actually along the river, our character and what's defining us as a community, along the river and by the water gap, I don't think we need a huge industrial zone. That's putting us back into the old ages. So given that, I'm very thankful because many of us listened to the county council meeting the other night. We did not go because we were kind of blindsided on it. We sent in comments, and I think the vote on that is coming up. It was very discouraging for me to hear the 3 councilmen who said they live here and know what we think and what we want, and that our township is going to go bankrupt if we don't have this. And then they admonished the other 3 new people, like, hey, you guys don't know what's going on. We live there. I'm sorry. They don't know what's going on. And we will let them know. And the fact that you're going to take this up and send in a letter to the councilman who's going to vote, I appreciate that. Then my next comment is about the planned slate belt. And I just want to say that because of RPL taking the oxygen out of the air, we have not gotten to do much of anything in the last few years. And planned slate belt plan is one of them. And I think a lot of our residents have no clue what's happening. We've given them the website, so I think we need some more educational outreach to them so they understand it. And I'm not going to talk anymore because you've got Becky and Susan here that'll give you that information. But I really want us to start looking at that. I see it as we partnering with 9 other municipalities throughout the slate belt. We've already gotten professional planning information at a minimal cost because we shared the cost. That will continue. We're working with partners and we can share the cost. It's not that we have to bring in another planner and start all over from scratch. So I hope we all, pay attention, the new supervisors and whoever's coming in. Really, this is important. This is the chance where we say what goes where, how do we work with, do we have to have everything in our community or not? We have special things here. I know in the slate belt plan, a whole lot of our community is considered character defining area. Not a lot of places have that. So we should make use of it, not build over it. And I think the part along the river, I don't care if it's zoned industrial right now, that is right along the river in view of the water gap and the Appalachian Trail. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Anyone else? Public comment? What's that? You did? Okay, Cindy and then Ron. Go ahead.
Oh, just following the first. Mine's pretty long.
Yours is long?
It's 11, yeah.
Oh, okay. Ron, why don't you come up, please?
Ronald L. Angle, $52 million highway, State of Pennsylvania, United States of America, 2023-92-4, Sergeant USMC. I had hope. I really had hope. And I've sat in the audience quite a bit and hoped this. I hope there could be peace in this township sometime. Because this stuff has went on for so long. And it appears like a lot of it is still going to go on. I actually represented the northern end of the county on county council. And I came from Upper Mount Bethel Township. And if you look around the township, a great deal of the township is not rateable for taxes. And my argument used to be with the county and Lake Mincy and all these other things. Okay, you have these great plans for the Lehigh Valley. Are you going to subsidize, if we're the recreation center of the county, are you going to subsidize us with some money because a lot of our tax ratables aren't here? And that is a shame. But I go back to, I had hoped somewhere along the line we could have peace in this township, but I don't see it. But the other reason I came tonight, and I have something for the other end, but for stuff on the agenda, you have the bathrooms at the park. And the park is a great facility. It's there for everybody, but in particular, it's there for our children. And that's a great place for our children to go and be. And as I understand, there's $8,000 worth of money that would went to the park for the children. That's unaccounted for. And you come out of the back room at the last meeting, and because it would cost too much money or whatever, you're not going to go after the individual who headed up the foundation at that point in time when the money was missing. Okay, and I'm thinking to myself, how does things work that way? In other words, I guess there's money missing from the firehouse too, but somebody's going after that evidently. Why is you're not going in? Well, then I got to thinking about the peace I had hoped for here in the township. It almost seems like you're either connected to the concerned citizens or you're nobody in this township anymore. So that person is a member of the concerned citizen, so you're not going to go after him to recover the money that would have went towards the restrooms for the children. I frankly don't understand that. Maybe Mr. Birmingham, you're a very wise man. Could you explain that to me?
We have looked into it. The supervisors have looked into it. There has been no signal or any sign of impropriety or any sort of missing money. As far as I was last told, someone had reached out to the Attorney General's office, and last I heard, the Attorney General found no wrongdoings on behalf of this park foundation. I think we're digging at something that we're looking to try and find something, but nothing's popping up.
It's wonderful how you can put a spin on those kind of things. A forensic accountant would have gave you that answer. The bottom line is, it might have cost $10,000. Maybe it would have cost $12,000 to recover the $8,000 that was missing when the foundation changed hands. There definitely was money missing, but it would take a little job to uncover that and go after that person and prosecute if the money was stolen or whatever it was. I don't know what it was, but the money's missing. So I guess it's not important for the children, not important for the taxpayers. And I think to myself, well, what if district attorneys would look at it this way? Well, you only robbed the bank for $1,000. It would cost us $8,000 to chase you across the country and bring you back, so we're not going to prosecute you. I guess that's the analogy in Upper Mount Bethel Township. Thank you.
It's kind of a spin on it, Ron, and we looked at it, and we've looked at it for the past couple of years, and to say that we're not following through is taking away from the children. And this is just speaking from what I know about the situation, when the individual took over the Park Foundation, I guess there was about $8,000 in the account. From what I know, this foundation had tried to get up and running, went and got grants.
It was loosely run.
And that's where it wasn't. I didn't see the individual all of a sudden go to Aruba and start going to casinos and stuff. What I did see was someone trying to get the foundation up and running, and basically did. And if that's wrongdoing, I don't think it is.
No, you're right with something that you just said. Maybe it wasn't that individual who couldn't account for the money. Maybe it was the personal individual that was there before that couldn't account for the money. But the bottom line is $8,000 that could go towards a restroom for the children to have a place to go to the bathroom if they're up there. And you choose not to go after that because, well, it maybe was this guy. I can tell you this. You could get the right people, you could get a forensic accountant, and they would find out who took the money. And I'm going to make you a challenge right here now, Mr. Birmingham. If you do that, and you get the $8,000 back, I will match it as a donation to the park. Fair enough?
Well,
and I'm here in front of these people. I will do that. If you want it in advance, I'll drop a check off to Cindy tomorrow morning. You need to make whoever took the money accountable for the money they took from the citizens of this township and from the children in this township.
The supervisors will talk about it, and we'll see where it goes from there. I can't speak
Which, if
on
you're wondering
behalf
what that means,
of all
that's
the
what it means
supervisors.
exactly nothing. Okay? Because they're not going to do anything.
Thank you, Ron. Mark.
Mark Metzger, Chairman of the Community Foundation. Last week, some comments were made pertaining to the foundation and the boss's vote to withdraw the litigation based on what I feel are inaccurate statements and sentiments put forward by the majority group of the previous board. Mr. Chairman, since late 2022, I was summoned as the chairman of that board 9 times to come in front of the Board of Supervisors. And each and every time I came, the questions were the same. How much money do you have in the bank? And the response was always the same. Why do you need to know? To date, those questions still remain unanswered to both parties. Okay, so where this has devolved to, on October the 3rd, a petition for a pre-complaint discovery rule was filed in Northampton County Court. The decision to put that there was not a unanimous decision. It was a 3-2 vote, like many votes previously acquired before by this township. Okay, so there's a political element to it. All right, the petition averts that the foundation's current board is illegitimate and, as such, has no authority to make business decisions for that company. Well, if they had the evidence to make a charge like that stick, which would be felony fraud, they don't have the evidence to support it. So they need to get pre-discovery done. So, the legitimacy of the foundation's board is something that came out of some of those heated discussions, and I want to talk to that right now. It was their position and on the majority group that we were illegitimate, okay? So the authority to reestablish that, and Lauren Rabat recruited the directors that took over in 2021, okay, of which I am one. The authority comes directly out of the state law, okay, and I direct your attention to PA Section 5725, Paragraph C, the title Incorporated and Unincorporated Associations, the Selection of Board Members, okay. Paragraph C addresses vacancies in the board, and I'm going to read directly what comes out of that law. Except as otherwise provided in the bylaws, 1. Vacancies in the board of directors, including vacancies resulting from the remaining members, including vacancies resulting from an increase in the number of directors, may be filled by a majority of the remaining members of the board, though less than a quorum. Or, and this is the key point, by a sole remaining director. This is where a member from the majority group of the previous board strenuously objected and said that could not be done. But here, the authority comes right out of the law. So, that completely nullifies any argument that the opposition may put forward that the existing board didn't have the authority to make decisions for the foundation as a company. So now, it gets to the matter of what were those decisions and what was involved, okay? To dissolve a company in Pennsylvania, you dissolve a company basically the same way you create a company. Instead of filing articles of incorporation, you file articles of dissolution. The $8,000 that the previous resident was talking about, okay, was money left over from a grant given to the foundation by a private bank. Okay, if the foundation were to dissolve, and the process for doing that is you put the articles of dissolution together, the disposition and the allocation of any remaining assets have to be spelled out in those articles. That then gets turned over to the Attorney General. The Attorney General has to approve that, and then the company's dissolved. The $8,000, any transfer of funds from the foundation to the township would have been a result of the dissolution. Nobody can put articles of dissolution filed with the state of Pennsylvania with regard to the foundation on the table. It was never dissolved. Okay, so on the 26th of June, former Supervisor Teal publicly announced that the Board of Supervisors meeting that the matter with the foundation was turned over to the Pennsylvania Attorney General. That was the only correct thing that supervisory board did with regard to this whole situation. Okay? On 17 April 2023, the foundation did receive a letter from the PA Attorney General's office stating that there has been a complaint against the foundation and it is going to be investigated. Okay? They asked for all of the documents for the foundation in 18 categories. So that forensic audit that this guy's talking about has already been done. All right? Done by the Attorney General. It says here, all requested documents were turned over by the foundation to the Attorney General's office on the 9th of May. To date, there have been no improprieties that have been identified. There have been no further actions coming to us from that office. So there we have it, okay? There's no impropriety found in the documents sent. So, as a matter of good faith, and in an attempt to restore whatever integrity and character the foundation and its board may have, I have put an information package together and I have forwarded it to Mr. Birmingham. That package can be reviewed in an executive session. The package contains the foundation's financial information that was provided to the Attorney General investigator. The details of that package are not to be made public, okay? They're for your guys' assessment and review only, okay? If the board wants to reopen the case, that should be your decision. But the foundation's board will no longer tolerate these accusations and assertions that we just heard without there being evidence, okay? And if there is no evidence, that's slander. And I don't want to see this meeting become a platform to sponsor slander. And with that, I'll turn it back.
Mark, in the package that you sent me, is there something from the Attorney General that states, the bottom line?
Not yet. According to my attorney, we expect a response from the Attorney General's office tomorrow. But he has communicated with them. Verbally, there's no issues. Okay? Getting something in writing. And you have to understand that that's not something the Attorney General's office typically does. This is an unusual circumstance that somebody actually requests the status of an investigation. Normally, you find out about these things by reading about them in the newspaper, from the press releases that they come up with. That's how we found out about the banking and securities fraud that Lou Pector propagated.
Will you be able to send us that, or can you talk to your
I will
attorney?
talk to my attorney to see if he wants that released.
Okay.
But yes,
we'd appreciate it.
I can certainly do that.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, you're operating under Robert's rules, which gives me the opportunity, and you said Robert's rules, to give a short rebuttal, and I'd like to do that.
I'll give you
Operating under
I'll
Robert's
give you
rules.
2 minutes, Ron.
This was a great dissertation that was just given. The bottom line is there's $8,000 missing that could go to the park for the children. And he had an interesting point about one thing. Nobody said he had the money. Somewhere the money disappeared, and I have a funny idea, I do know where. Maybe it was him, maybe it wasn't him. I don't know. But the bottom line is it could be gotten to the bottom of if you really wanted to do it. You could get the $8,000 back for the park, use it towards the restrooms or whatever for the children. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mark, if you want one more rebuttal, and then we're
If
moving
we're under
on.
Robert's rules, then you want to be a little careful. I do understand Robert's rules, you remember.
He's got a chance.
I'm not going to worry about Robert's rules. What I am going to tell you is
Yeah,
that
he's
all of
a
these,
citizen, so
all-
2 minutes, 2 minutes,
you know,
Mark.
this kind of stuff is garbage. And all they want to do is use this as a political football. There's no substance behind it. You've got all the information in that package to make that determination. Okay? There's nothing else needed, John.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, Lee. And just state your full name, please.
Leo McDonald, Belvedere Corner Road, 1221. This is about what we just talked about, but I don't want to get into specifics here. It's actually a more general point. Based on the conversations of a couple of meetings ago, I did purchase the lawsuit or the complaint, whatever it was that we were just referring to here. And it says repeatedly that the bylaws of this board is that their information is public. And what we've had, I guess, 9 times what the gentleman just said was he was asked to provide this public information to a public body about what happened to our taxpayer dollar. So I'd like to skip past all the conversation just had. I'd ask the board to consider 2 things, please, to do. One is require that any group that receives township money agree, upon request, to report in detail how they spent township money. And any group that does not comply would automatically become ineligible to receive township funds. I think that's a basic principle of good governance and also transparency. And I'm surprised it wasn't followed here. I wish it would. And the second thing is that you would bar from township official capacity any executive member of a group that refuses to explain how they disposed of taxpayer money. This is public information. It's our money. And we're sitting here listening to somebody say, I'm not going to tell you, and I don't have to tell you. This is ridiculous. I'd like to know. And as soon as you find out, could you please share that with us?
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you.
No, I'm moving on. We're gonna be here all night going back. Anyone else, public comment? Oh, Cindy.
I'll just sit right here. Hopefully you can all hear me. It's a little bit long.
Okay.
It is from Stavros, representing, he is the chairman of, he's the chairman of the Parks and Rec Board. I've been involved with Parks and Recreation for over 7 years now. In that time, I've also been involved with the EDC and the Planning Commission. I have even attended many meetings just from a live stream perspective due to COVID. I've been involved, I've been present, and I spent a significant amount of time, personal time, doing what I feel is the best interest of the township and this community. The Parks and Recreation Board members all share the same level of passion, enthusiasm, and pride in what we can do. To go even further, many of our family members volunteer their time as well. This Parks and Recreation Board has done some great things, and we have plans to do more. It was the Parks and Rec Board that brought to light the overlapping powers and duties between the Open Space Advisory Board and the Park and Rec Board. Solicitor confirmed it, nothing has changed. It was the Park and Rec Board that brought to light that the park expenses were not being handled properly. It was the Park and Rec Board that worked to update the aged ordinance and bylaws of the Park and Rec to bring them current. It is the Park and Rec that does all the work behind the scenes of all our community events. It is the Park and Rec that has been asking for volunteers for over 4 years now, yet we receive no interest. Even our prior board chair, Mike Kudak, travels back out to Upper Mount Bethel to help at events. It is also the Park and Rec that called out the Board of Supervisors for lack of action and support. So when I hear Supervisor Birmingham has asked the township manager to take over the bathrooms project, I am taken back. To be clear, Supervisor Birmingham has not attended a Park and Rec Board meeting since early 2021 when he was our liaison. In fact, in 2021, John missed 9 meetings. Supervisor Birmingham has not reached out to the Park and Rec Board to ask for status or any information in regard to the project. What is also true is that in general, the Park and Rec rarely sees a member of the public at their meetings, with the exception being members of our sports programs and our past liaison, Martin Pinner. What we've done here is once again undermine the actual work, what the Park and Rec Board does. We have an understaffed township office, but let's ignore everything the Park and Rec Board has done. Let's not even contact them to ask what the status is. Let's just assume we already have inundated the township manager to take this on. To add insult to injury, we've also decided that it wasn't worth pursuing legal action to recover the funds from the former Park Foundation to be used for park development. Parks and Recreation is grossly underfunded, and we have been for a very long time. The original master plan for the community park was estimated at needing $25 million to complete. The Park Foundation was created around the same time as the master plan, and they were chartered with the task of raising those funds. Why was this not pursued years ago? Where is the due diligence and initiative? Instead, I heard John Birmingham state publicly during a discussion about the NID that Parks and Recreation doesn't need money. Another clear demonstration of how disconnected from the truth he is. I've already had several prior conversations with the members of the Park and Rec Board to convince them not to resign, all because of this behavior. Now, as this board is getting organized, our new liaison has already missed our first meeting this year. What is it going to take for Parks and Recreation to receive the level of support and involvement it deserves from the Board of Supervisors? As chairman of the Park and Rec Board, I feel compelled to publicly raise awareness of these facts and the actual status of the park bathroom project, since you didn't bother to check. Okay. Around April 2021, the township manager and township engineer met to discuss bathrooms at the park. Park and Rec was not included as part of the process. The township received plans from Portner and Petke Architects. Those were then shared with the Park and Rec. Below is a summary of minutes taken at the Park and Rec meetings. January of 2022, Valentine to submit design for the bathrooms in the spring. April 2022, the bathroom project went out to bid and we received no bids as of yet. We were advised that the permits were completed and that they would take 2 weeks for approval. Cost estimated around $30,000 so far. July of 22, the update received on the septic system was that it was rejected by DEP due to missing documents. Existing well deemed to be appropriate as a water source, but water filtration would be needed. Engineers with condition 1 performed an inspection of the calf barn and deemed the foundation unsuitable to be built on. It was around this time the township manager, Ed Nelson, started having thoughts of leveraging existing donations towards a larger project that could include bathrooms we sought after, but also reinforced for the large barn use. August of 22, condition 1 further stated that the actual foundation does not exist, that the structure was built on the surface and that the blocks used to be built were not appropriate. The foundation of the large barn, however, was deemed suitable. Condition 1 came in and provided a full presentation and question and answer session with their engineers to review these findings and begin discussion on what we could do as an alternate. October of 22, we were still waiting on the proposed plans for review. Marty suggested seeking an alternate contractor because it was taking too long. November of 22, Ed Nelson received plans and got them to the Park and Rec Board after November's meeting. December of 22, condition 1 presented on the plans that they had prepared. February of 23, condition 1 presented modified plans for the Park and Rec review. March of 23, Park and Rec Board is still discussing viability of proposed designs. April of 23, design plans, cost estimate, net worth $6 million. No further action taken with proposed design of the barn bathroom project. June of 23, we researched prefabricated bathrooms as an option. 3 stall designs were $225,000, but did not include the foundation or the septic system. July of 23, we received septic system cost estimates between $35,000 and $50,000. We also received a preliminary drawing from Lincoln Design for a 3-stall bathroom plan. July of 23, Lincoln Design prepared bathroom plans based on Park and Rec specifications. August of 23, recommend going out to bid for the plans prepared by Lincoln Design. September of 23, Anthony and Cindy to meet with Justin to prepare a request. Anthony secured a donation for the concrete blocks that were part of the design, which would reduce material costs of the project. October of 23, Stavros to meet with Justin to discuss plans, but Stavros became ill and could not attend. Asked Anthony DeFranco to go as an alternate. I was advised the township engineer refused to meet with Anthony DeFranco. All that said, it is apparent that there are 2 different positions on the suitability of the calf barn being repurposed as bathrooms. I would advise the township to get a definite response. Condition 1 was on site with multiple professionals inspecting the calf barn. We defer to the respective professionals to provide us with valid data and information for us to make decisions on. Based on the information we received, we adapted and kept pushing forward on an alternate path. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, Stavros Barbonis, Chairman of the Park and Rec Board.
Oh, okay, thanks. And I will just say, the reason I had missed those 9 meetings as Park and Rec liaison is because the bottom line is I'm not going to get down deep into it, but I have a special needs child. And sometimes I have to make sacrifices by giving my wife the night off. I teach, I'm here supervising twice a month, and that is my reason. I informed the Park and Rec Committee if they needed me to be there, I would be there. If they didn't, I hope they would understand and they can update. The reason now Nick has taken over the restrooms. It's been 3 years. I'm not saying the Park and Rec Committee does wonderful things, and thank you to the Park and Rec Committee. They do wonderful things. We're just trying to help to keep this project moving forward. We received $100,000 from the Post Foundation 3 years ago. Nothing against the Park and Rec Committee. Let's give it to our township manager. Let's see what he can do. I know he's going to give an update shortly, so let's listen to his update and let's see where it goes. We want the restrooms built, and Park and Rec Committee gets credit for it, Nick gets credit for it, everybody gets credit for it. Let's just get the restrooms built. That's why we're having Nick step in now, but he'll give his update shortly. That being said, is there anyone else with a public comment? I know it's 10:30, it's getting late, we've got to start our meeting, so let's move on. Announcements. Supervisor Ekman, do you have any announcements? I do not. Supervisor Friedman, do you have any announcements?
Yes, I have some announcements. At one of our previous meetings, I stated that we were only going to have one newsletter because we couldn't get any material to be placed in it. But the printer had found out the situation, and he said if there's only one newsletter published, that there's a good chance that the advertisers would not advertise in it. So he said he will be paying for the postage. So in essence, we will now be getting 2 newsletters. The second one will be free. So all I ask is that the members of the board and everybody else, when Cindy's asking for material for the newsletter, let's get it to her so she can publish it. I also have one more announcement that the Environmental Advisory Committee is looking to be reestablished. We're going to be looking for members to man that committee, and that I think we should put that on the website, letters of interest for the Environmental Advisory Committee.
I did get one.
You did get one. So that's all I have for announcements, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Supervisor Albert, any?
No, not at this time.
Just a couple of announcements. We are going to have a special meet. I'm still talking like I'm talking into the mic. Special meeting February 28th. That is Wednesday night at the Mount Bethel Firehouse. It's a special meeting where we're inviting, or have invited, Portland, Lower Mount Bethel, Bangor, East Bangor, Delaware Water Gap, and Knowlton, New Jersey, Plainfield, and Washington Townships. We want to hear from the representatives. We want to hear their thoughts about this development. We want to hear their positive thoughts, their negative thoughts. We want to be good neighbors, and that's why we're having this special meeting. We want to hear from them. Tonight in executive session, we are going to go back in and talk about whether we're going to appoint a new supervisor tonight or if we're going to take more time. So that'll be discussed in executive session, and then anything that's voted on will be done out here publicly. After we have our new supervisors, in the next couple of meetings, we'll lay out our vision for Upper Mount Bethel in 2024 and beyond. Fran, question?
What time was the meeting on February 28th?
7 p.m.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You did say at the firehouse.
Yeah, the Mount Bethel Firehouse. And then we'll have to also talk about office hours for February. I know we had talked about David and I typically did them, but now I know Jason, you want to be involved, Corey, you want to be involved. So let's figure out who's going to do office hours for February. And then we'll put it out to you guys and let you know. And the two who do office hours in February, the other two will do it in March. So we'll kind of rotate here and there. So you always have 2 supervisors at office hours for each and every month. And then another thing, I'm working with Mount Bethel Pharmacy. They're doing a fundraiser in February. It's Dress Down Fridays, and I guess the employees get to donate money, and it's part of the donation. They get to dress down on Fridays. So I'll keep you updated on that and what organization they're going to be donating to. And that's my announcements. Anything, Cindy?
Code Red, sign up for Code Red.
Nick, anything?
Yeah, I have a few things I'd like to speak about. First, I want to apologize. The floor is dirty, and we had Stavros was sick, and Chris came in, and I want to thank him for coming in, and I'm sorry for the technical difficulties and everything. But we were trying to wing it today. The guys, we had trucks that were broken down. As you see, we have Mr. Potter's leaning on one of our plows that are broken that his son is working on. It's just part of plowing. So we try to do the best we can, and hopefully next time it'll be cleaner, and we're doing it at the fire department. But I also want to let everybody know on the bearer news, the tax bills will be coming out in February, and also Cindy and I just approved the Berkheimer bill for the trash. We wanted to get it out early because we wanted to promise everybody they had 12 months to pay the bill, which will take us into January. So you still have January 25 to pay your last payment. Okay, and the bill this year is $520 for everybody, unless you have extra toters for trash or recycling, and that will be a different bill. It'll be on your bill. And there's different options listed on the bill where you can pay and make your payments. And also be aware if you don't go there and drop it off, that there is a slight fee, like everything else when you use technology. Other than that, I think that's it, right? Yeah. That's it, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Okay, let's move on to part 5 presentations. Suburban Ambulance is here tonight, and Ryan, I'd like to welcome up representatives of Suburban Ambulance. Sorry our public comment took so long, but people have things on their mind. So thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you. I don't know, I know this was sent a while back. I don't know, did the supervisors have the copy of this presentation with them, or I have extra copies?
Yeah, if we can get copies. Because I was with you guys. Yeah. Oh, can you guys state your full name?
Yeah, I'm Brian Dunlap, and that is Don DeRemus. I'll try not to take too long. I know you guys have a long agenda. You have copies of this. If there's any questions that you think of after the fact, please by all means reach out to us. We're always available. On the first sheet there, it kind of lays out our leadership structure here. It tells our different key individuals. Again, Jeff Young is our executive director. I'm the director of finance. Our director of operations is Tim Werkheiser. Don is the QA manager, government relations liaison. Mike Rapp is our operations manager down here in Northampton County. Justin Thomas is our operations manager in Monroe County. And then Barb Riley is our HR and billing manager. Essentially, real quick, what we're going to do is we're going to run through a few things, talk about the cost readiness within the EMS industry, the lack of funding that's being seen locally throughout the state and also nationally. tying into that below cost reimbursement and also workforce crisis and how that affects EMS. We'll run through revenues and expenses, what we do to try to reduce our expenses, threat to our retention, what we're doing to plan for our future, and then finally the calculation for request. Again, thank you. As I know it, there is a monetary amount within your budget for 2024 for Suburban, but this will give you some more details about that. Our current structure is that we operate within both counties, Monroe and Northampton County. We have 4 stations spread out within that area, 19 municipalities we cover, with 23, soon to be 25 EMS vehicles. This past year we celebrated our 70th year of service. We cover 232 square miles and 124 residents are serviced. In addition to that, countless seasonal visitors throughout the coverage area. To give you an idea of our revenue structure, 75 to 80% of our patients are basically through mandated payment models. This is the key thing. This is the vast majority of how we receive all of our revenue. But essentially what that's saying is that up to 80% of our revenue comes from revenue sources that essentially tell us what they're going to pay us, not the other way around. We can say we want to charge $2,000, but Medicare caps us and tells us what we can get. 15 to 20% of the patients are commercial insurance, out-of-network insurers, individuals coming from New York, New Jersey, things like that, or other parts of the country, state. A lot of times their insurance company sends them the payment instead of us. It's just the way it's structured with out-of-network insurers. And then 9 times out of 10, as you can expect, a lot of people keep that money and don't ever pay their bill. 5% of our patients are self-pay or uninsured or underinsured, with deductibles that can't be covered by the patient. A lot of these are elderly residents that are already on a fixed budget, and obviously sometimes they have to make a call onto what bills to pay, and usually medical bills are the bills most unpaid by individuals. Regarding our revenues, again, I touched on this. The majority of our rate structure is determined and capped by federal and state agencies through Medicare, Medicaid, third-party insurers. Another aspect of our revenue is that certain calls are just unbillable by us. So this includes where we go out to assist with fire calls, false activation of emergency alarms, and also situations where the patients actually leave before we can arrive at the destination. And as you can see there on the chart there, just to let you know, the empty box in there is the amount of calls each year that are unbillable to us. So it was trending about a third. Cost of readiness. What this is saying is that, as an EMS agency, being available 24/7, 365 in order to respond to emergencies, you're constantly incurring costs even though you're not generating revenue. There's the cost for, obviously, payroll, which is 9 times out of 10 every business's largest expense, as well as maintaining the facilities, the vehicles, utilities, overhead costs. And what this boils down to is that basically we're losing between $100 and $150 on every emergency call. And this is largely because the mandated payment structures that are set up by the state and federal governments, their reimbursement to us is so below the cost in order to provide that service that we're losing essentially every time we go out on a call. Other things that are affecting us, as we know in the current environment that all businesses operate in, is that the cost of employees to remain competitive, not only within our own industry, but also now we're seeing, warehouse development within the area and also other industries that are offering higher wages at times. Increased costs of gas, increased costs of repairs and maintenance, not only to our vehicles, but to our facilities. The cost of the vehicles themselves, and the cost of medical supplies. The next few pages are just some charts, just to kind of show you the representation of how these expenses have increased over the past couple of years. First one is the cost of fuel. As we all know, the cost of fuel over the past few years has really gone up. We haven't closed out, obviously, our 2023 year, so you have the completed fiscal years here. But you can see that there was a drastic increase within our fuel costs in 2022. Repairs and maintenance to vehicles. Now again, these are specific to Northampton County. I just want to tell you that we do break up operationally our business between the North and the South Division. So these are respective of Northampton County. Here we did see a dip in 2022 in our repair and maintenance on our vehicles, but that was because in 2021 we had to really do some expenses that we normally don't have for our vehicles because the vehicle shortage. So we had to replace more engines, transmissions, things like that. We like to keep our ambulances on a 7-year replacement cycle, but even now we're still feeling the effects of the chip shortage, chassis shortage. We actually this past year purchased 2 ambulances, but they're already going to be 2 years old before we ever put a mile on them just because of the time and delays it takes for delivery of vehicles. Page 13 there, you actually see a graph of actual purchase prices, all going back to 2018. You see it, and as you would expect, a steady increase in purchase price for ambulances. But the same ambulance that we purchased in 2022 versus the ambulance we purchased in 2023 was an increase there that was exponentially larger than in previous years. And this price, even today, continues to increase. It's increasing at a rate that is really kind of crazy. About every month, a month and a half, we're seeing about a 5% increase in ambulance. Things that we do within our organization to try to mitigate our expenses is we try to renegotiate contracts whenever practical. We utilize purchasing agreements such as co-stars. We are a nonprofit, so we can utilize things like the co-stars, which is as you're all familiar, I would assume is a state agreed upon purchasing agreement. We have cooperative agreements with certain municipalities to reduce fuel expenses. They essentially allow us to use some of their fuel at lower costs. We have a lean management structure, as you can see on the first page. Some organizations have a large depth of leadership and management structure, but we try to mitigate expenses. It does put a lot of responsibility on each individual, but it also helps reduce expenses and be more fiscally conscious. And then we do frequent analysis to try to optimize our procedures. We do fundraising. Annual donations within Northampton County are approximately $88,000. In 2023, we did do a campaign where we tried to solicit donations from businesses and industries that operate within the county. Unfortunately, it was not very successful. Our largest fundraising effort is our golf tournament. We do that once annually over the past couple of years. As you can see on the next page, it's actually had some highest returns. We've netted over $33,000 over the past couple of years through that event. Threats to retention, like I touched on before, warehouses are a big threat to our industry as well as others. Fast food industry, gig jobs we're here we talk about is that, like your Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, things like that. And then also, frankly, just providers leaving the industry. We are obviously we operate within the medical industry, which has become less attractive post-COVID. Some people don't want to be involved in the medical industry that maybe would have thought about it as a enticing career previously. What we do to plan for the future, we are fortunate enough that we do have an approved in-house education program, which is not very prevalent among EMS agencies, especially in this area. So we can essentially take individuals that are interested in the industry. We hire them on day one. We pay them a wage because we understand it's hard for somebody to go and get an education and commit Monday through Friday and still be able to pay the rent. So we hire them day one. We pay them to go through our education program. They work towards their time towards our 401k. And then essentially what we do, we take them through the 8-week program, and then they are prepared to take the state registry to become an EMT. After they pass that, then they can become an EMT with us. Coming soon, we do have a program which we are going to be able to take our EMTs to bring them up to what's an AEMT, which is an advanced emergency medical technician, which gives them allows them to do more than an EMT, but not quite as much as a paramedic. And we can do that. We'll be able to do that all in-house. And to take that further, individuals that still want to set a clear career path, we also, after a couple of years of somebody being an EMT, they've shown that they're a valuable employee. We do offer the opportunity to then have their education progress through the paramedic program. Now, we cannot do that in-house, but we do pay for the tuition for these individuals to go through that program, and then they can become paramedics within our agency. To touch, almost to the end here, sorry, the municipal support is, so here's some examples of some agencies that receive municipal support. There's Bethlehem Township Volunteer EMS, which receive funding from Bethlehem Township and Nazareth, in Lower Nazareth. Bethlehem City, obviously funded through the city of Bethlehem. Pocono Mountain Regional, which is the other large EMS agency within Monroe County. They operate within those 7 municipalities. They are actually fully funded by those 7 municipalities, and essentially they net out to zero every year. They are another nonprofit agency, but they have received funding from all their municipalities that they cover for a number of years, and essentially it alleviates the burden on their nonprofit, and they can level out to a neutral budget every year. Lehman Pike ALS, this is within Pike County. This is a different kind of situation, but Pike County as a whole was in a situation where they were essentially only had one agency to service the entire county. And it got to a point where it was a real problem, and they unfortunately were in a situation where they had to take a reactive approach to the situation they were in. And this was a structured agreement between all the municipalities and the county. Each municipality could put up to 2 mils of tax revenue into the bucket, and the county would match it, and then those funds are essentially divvied out annually to the agency. They were able to start an agency with this funding. It was a large sum of money. It was approximately $2 million that it took to get off the ground. But because of the collaborative effort between the county and all the municipalities, because they realized they were in dire straits, it kind of worked out for them. Specifically, talking to the request that we made to Upper Mount Bethel Township, we sent a letter. It was back in the end of August, beginning of September, I believe. How we came up with this was we looked at our projection in 2024. We took into account all of our revenues, expenses, our fundraising, our offsetting revenue that we do generate through our non-emergency business, which is wheelchair, stretcher, BLS transport, that we do offer as well to try to offset our deficit through the emergency. We took all of that, and then specifically for Northampton County, and then we looked at the data that we had. We looked at the population that we service as a whole, and within the Northampton County, Upper Mount Bethel makes up 8% of our population that we serve. And then we looked at our actual real data from a 12-month time span and said, okay, how many of our overall calls, emergency calls, came from Upper Mount Bethel Township, and that was 8% of all of our calls. We took the average, in your case it's very easy, 8%, and then we applied that to our overall to come up with our ask. And just as a side note, the overall emergency calls within that time frame that we looked at within Upper Mount Bethel was 629 emergency calls. On the second to last page there, it shows you, this is the 8% allocated portion. You can see exactly each line item there, 8% of the offsetting revenue, and then the 8% of all of our expenses. We have our wage, payroll, fringe benefits, repair and maintenance, things like that. And the net annual contribution that we had asked for was $50,500. Monthly contribution, essentially just prorating that 12 months, a little bit over $4,200. And then on the last page, because throughout this entire process we want to be completely transparent, we also tell you the other requests that we made of the other municipalities that we serve within the county. And that's essentially the presentation.
And how have the other municipalities been in response to this?
So it's been a little mixed, but so there's essentially 2 ways that you could fund this, either through your general fund or you could institute an EMS tax. Within the county of Northampton, the only municipality that instituted an EMS tax was Palmer Township. They instituted an EMS tax to fully fund their $183,500. We did also receive some funding from Forks Township, West Easton, what else we got here? Who else was it? Do you remember, Don? Because everybody's kind of just getting to the end of their budget cycle, So some of these municipalities we also need to follow up with to see exactly where everything kind of lied, but we know a few of them definitely because they were earlier on in the process.
Okay. And Nick, what do we have in the budget?
25,000 that we budgeted.
I'm assuming the membership is the, what's the word? Subscription, yes.
Mhm.
Is that the subscription?
On
your revenues, it says membership. Is that the subscription?
Yes, that's the subscription, yeah.
But I noticed you didn't mention that in your other calculations of your revenues, where it says memberships. Are we the only township that gives you membership money?
No, we actually...
What's the total of the membership money that you get from all the other townships then?
So annually, it's over like 300,000, but that's across all the municipalities that we service between the two counties. We do have individuals that purchase the subscription from all municipalities, but the thing is that subscriptions are really, they were good previously, but in more recent years, it's really not bringing in as much revenue as it used to, because younger generation, they really don't find the benefit to it. You know, obviously younger people don't really need non-emergency, because really the biggest benefit you get a lot of times is non-emergency, because you get a cheaper rate on, you know, if you need to go to a doctor's office and you need a wheelchair van or a stretcher van or a BLS. Granted, with the subscription, we do write off up to $500 of an emergency bill that it wouldn't be covered by your insurance. But a lot of times people use it more for the benefit of the reduced rate of the non-emergency services that we offer. And younger people usually don't really need that. And also, given increased expenses, some people opt to not buy a membership because it is good for 12 months. But sometimes when they're put into a corner, they say, I'll roll the dice because what's the chances I might need it? So we are seeing reduced revenue coming in from subscriptions just because of those multiple factors.
And when are you looking to get this money by? Just as soon as possible?
So it was an ask for 2024, but really that's up to the discretion of the supervisors and how you'd like to fund that.
Okay.
If I might say, Mr. Chair, is that I have spoken to other township managers and I haven't heard of anyone that was paying it. So I don't know, and the slate though, that are paying this fee. Because a lot of the concern, and nothing against you guys, a lot of concern is response time. We're paying for something, and I hear the complaints all the time is the response time. Where's the trucks? There's no trucks in Upper Mount Bethel. They're down south, that's what I hear from. So the response time is always late. So that's why people are taking their people to the hospital or taking them somewhere else, because you're just late. And I understand you explained that you have issues with, you know, having help and things like that, but that's the common complaint is response time. If we're going to give you $50,000, we're still getting the same service. We're not getting a better service. We're just getting the same service.
Right.
So we're supplementing you, but we're not getting anything back. And of course, EMS is very important to this township, but for years, the response time has been, I've been here almost 20 years, has been lacking. And I'm just repeating what the residents have told me.
I understand. And, you know, this is the first time Suburban's ever done an ask for municipalities. There's other agencies that have done it years in advance. You know, should we have maybe done it years in advance? Maybe. But we were also trying to not come and ask for something, you know, right when we need it. Now, we're still trying to be proactive because there is no, Suburban is not in jeopardy of going out of business. We do have a healthy reserve. We are an organization that, you know, we try to plan for the future. You know, payroll costs are high, but we still have a reserve. You know, and really there's no point in coming and asking for money when we've got zero. Mm-hmm. You know? Mm-hmm. So we are still trying to be proactive here. There are other agencies that have gone out of business just because of the lack of funding and the lack of reimbursement issues that I went through. You know, I think that eventually, to some extent, not even in this area, but statewide, nationally, EMS is something that is going to have to be funded by, a tax revenue or municipalities or something eventually one day. In today's world, because of the reimbursements that are, essentially restricted by the federal and state government, it's losing, and it is an essential service that needs to be provided. So if the state and federal government are not going to increase their revenues to a point that can sustain the operation, then we have to look into other places. And I hear what you're saying. And like I said, this is the first year that we've come and asked municipalities. We're still going to do it every year. I get, some municipalities were apprehensive, things like that. But again, we are very grateful to the municipalities that did take the step and did offer us funding. We also did receive funding from municipalities in Monroe County. Because somebody's got to take that first step. I get it, people are nervous, municipalities are nervous, but somebody's got to take that first step. We did have municipalities that took that first step, and I'm confident that when we go and talk to all of our municipalities again here in 8-9 months, talking about the next year, that they will see that there are municipalities that have taken that first step, and they won't feel as apprehensive, and more of the municipalities that we cover will continue to contribute, which will allow Suburban and its operation to improve and also, sustain itself.
Any other questions from supervisors?
Yeah, so this is actually a state and national workforce crisis in the EMS industry right now. There are 44,000 certified personnel in Pennsylvania, EMS personnel, and we're doing over 2.7 million calls a year. So there's a very limited workforce that we're working with right now, and our reimbursement structure, our business model is completely broken. To put it in your terms, it would be like you charging a mill tax, and you can only collect a half mil. That's all you can collect, and you have to make good with the other half mil, finding another way to do it.
I'm doing that every day. So
I know, but
I have 8.5 to
now we have made strides in Harrisburg. We did get a medical assistance increase that's going to come in the new year. They haven't put it out yet, but it will be effective January 1st, 2024. So we've made great strides with getting an increase in our revenue, but it's still below cost.
Okay. Now, Supervisor Friedman and I went to a PSATS meeting, and the woman that handles firemen and EMS and everything, I don't think she opened her mouth, and I don't think she spoke for about 15, 20 minutes, because everybody in that room, from every township, probably in the Northeast, has the same gripe. There's no money.
I presented PSATs every year.
There's no money, and then there's no money. We're saying, why aren't you helping us? Because we can't make community. And they're telling us to combine with other communities, and they have all these ideas, but they don't want to mandate any money. They don't want to fund anything. We have a problem here with trash. I just told everybody that we have to pay. We're short $200,000. Where do we get that money from? We have a board here, and I agree that we want to try to keep taxes down. So it's just to add an EMS tax. It's not popular. Raising taxes isn't popular. And I'm struggling every day to make sure that my fiduciary responsibility is to make sure that we're viable. And maybe $50,000 isn't a lot in an almost $5 million budget, but it is, because I'm scrambling to pay something that we're not getting here, and taking away from park and recs, or taking away from open space and putting in here so we could pay the bills. So it's not, we understand your concerns, and you provide a great service. But we also have to look at our bottom line and realize that there's only so much you can get out of that dollar. And to raise taxes on people right now, where, with fuel, we're all paying those fuel prices, not just you. We all are paying higher costs, and people are paying more for age, whatever it is. So to ask people to raise your taxes, it's not a popular item right now, if it ever is, but it's not a popular item. When we have our own issues too in our township, that we'll be okay, but we have to stay on top of it. But then to add another $50,000 payment, it's squeezing that dollar. There's nothing left.
I come from a borough of 1,500 people with no industrial base, so I know where you're coming from.
No, so I'm not picking on you guys, and I give you a lot of credit for coming up here, and you provide a great service. You saved my wife's life 10 years ago, and I'm always appreciative of that. But I came from New York to go see my wife, and she was just getting at the hospital. That was an hour drive. But you saved her life, and I appreciate that. But, again, the response time is probably your number one issue.
So, the
Probably
majority of
the site
time, the vehicle that is spawning in this township is coming out of Bangor, right above top of Bangor, and technically Rosetta was annexed. But this township, the way it's set up, it's 20 minutes to Riverton and it's 20 minutes to Slateford.
No,
you can't cut that down.
No, I hear you.
Unless you put a truck in here, and
Yeah.
that comes down to money and personnel.
Yeah.
And right now, personnel is critical.
Yep.
And,
I get it.
yeah, and we're gonna put this, Cindy, we're gonna put this on the agenda for the last February, the second meeting in February, and we'll discuss it. And Ron, my question is, because we have new supervisors on board here, we can open the budget and look at our budget, but when does that deadline pass?
I think the deadline might be by February 15.
February 15th. So then let's put it on for the first February, please. Yeah, please. All right, so we'll discuss it at our next February meeting, but thank you guys so much for coming out.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
And you did help my son at one point as well, when Chief Finan remembers back then, and you guys got there and you got him to the hospital, and he was, at the time, he was 2 years old. So you did wonders for him, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming, guys. Okay, LDPC, sorry for the delay.
Thank you.
After this, we'll take a short break.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I think they're gonna get me set up here so everybody can see the PowerPoint. I'm Becky Bradley. I'm the Executive Director at the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission, and I'm joined by my colleague Sue Rockwell, who's a Senior Environmental Planner at LVPC, and has been LVPC now at 28 years. And I've been with the Commission over 10 years at this point. So we're both professional planners and have been the majority of our career. And we were actually hired by a group of communities, including Upper Mount Bethel Township Supervisors, back in 2019 to update your current comprehensive plan, which at this point is over 10 years of age. And the state Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code requires communities to review their comprehensive plan and do any updates over a 10-year period. Yeah, I'm plugged in.
There's a switch. Did you hit the switch?
Oh, there we go. Wonderful. Okay.
Lee McDonald, thank you for your service as always.
And so a group of communities in the Slate Belt came together, and it really started about, I want to say even as far back as 2015, 2016. And everybody was talking about, well, how do we update our comprehensive plans? We know it's a state requirement under the law. So Bangor, East Bangor, Lower Mount Bethel, Upper Mount Bethel, Penargil, Plainfield, Portland, Rosetto, Washington, and Wingate got together and said, hey, we could probably create a joint comprehensive plan. Everyone retains their rights, by the way. There's no communist conspiracy here, and I'm joking, but there really isn't. But what it does is it allows the communities to work together. You already have a cultural, social affinity. We've heard all tonight how you're dealing with these issues of change, growth management. How are you going to deal with those? How are you going to do everything from emergency response to manage your land use, natural resources, agricultural resources, and all those great things that define not only Upper Mount Bethel Township, and you have some different assets than other communities in the Slate Belt, but how are you going to bring all of that together? And you do that through your comprehensive plan.
So we started off kicking this off back in 2019, right before COVID started, the end of that year and into the following year with the shutdowns then that March. And a steering committee was appointed. It has 3 representatives as determined by the supervisors from each community. And Mr. David Dew, Mr. Dave Freeman, and Mr. Ed Nelson were representatives up through the end of last year, back from 2019 to 2023. And I understand that Mr. Dave Freeman is going to continue, and Judy Henkel has also been appointed, and I'm not sure if you've appointed yet a third person for Mr. Dew, but I know I will hear from you guys when you've done that. So the process was the same. The communities got together and everybody said, hey, let's do these listening sessions. Let's hear what's actually happening in the community, what people's issues are, what their needs are. And so we actually held one of those meetings here at Upper Mount Bethel Township. Thank you for hosting that. And we went through a series of questions. What do you like? What don't you like? And then we tied that back to data. And that's very important. In fact, we felt that that was so important that we issued a data companion, which I gave a copy of, and we updated it through at least November last year. I have to just double check and make sure we got any December information in here for you guys. So even as the 2020 census was released, we updated the information as we started to craft the policy, because we wanted the information to be the foundation along with what we heard from the community as the drafting of policy. So really what we found out, and you all know this, we know this as well, but it was reinforced by the data and the conversations. It's great when those align. There's a mix of types of uses, everything from natural and agricultural landscapes to a variety of businesses, housing, cultural, religious, social institutions, parks, rec, and open space. Everyone feels that all of those things are extremely important. I think one of the things that really, really stood out is that this is over a third of the total land area. All 10 communities together are over a third of Northampton County's land area. So that's a significant part of the assets of not only the county, but as you know every day, of the Slate Belt communities. So it's over 20,000 acres. It's 38% of the farmland of the county, and you have some nationally recognized assets. I don't need to tell you what those are, but you really are the southern gateway to a national recreation area, specifically this township. Plus you have the Blue Mountain that runs all along the northern border. You have water assets, other recreational assets from the Appalachian Trail and Mincy Lake to the Delaware Water Gap itself. So this is an example of some of the things that are happening, or some of the assets that you have, but really we also projected out your population. Right now, as a whole, the Slate Belt is about 36,000 people, give or take. If it continues to grow at the same rate, you're anticipated to grow by 4.5% as a entire Slate Belt by 2050. In the data companion, it actually shows, we did individual projections for you. And right now, you have, give or take, about 6,430 folks, 6,450-ish in there. If you continue to grow at the same rate, you'll have 6,897 by 2050. That's a change of 467 people. And that's the highest rate of new growth so far. So that's a 7.3% increase in the number of people if you continue to grow at the same rate that you have over the last 2 decades. That's the highest rate of growth of any of the 10 communities that are part of this planned Slate Belt effort. So you, in many ways, as we heard all tonight, it's a good civic dialogue, have some serious need to talk about, well, how do you want to grow and where do you want to grow? So we continued that public input, worked a lot with Northampton County. They funded an initiative with the Slate Belt Heritage Center to really look at some of those recreational assets. We were at the Slate Belt Bash in 2019. and we held municipal meetings on the draft policy throughout last summer and into the fall. And then there's been monthly meetings on this plan since, well, they slowed down during COVID times, but then they picked back up as soon as 2021 hit, and they started going monthly again. We had a period there during COVID where we were meeting every so many months because it was so difficult, and some of your connectivity, especially along the base of the mountain in this township, is limited. So everybody really wanted to wait till we got back in person. But since really 2021, the steering committee's been meeting in earnest monthly. We also conducted a survey. We had over 400 responses to that, so that gives you a margin of error of around 5%, which is a fairly good margin of error for a 10 community-wide survey. That was in October 2021. The results of that are also in the data companion. This one is really important to take a look at in the data companion, because this will tell you, after your plan is done and adopted, what people really expect of you when you go to refine your zoning. And I'll get to that in a minute. But let's talk about the plan first. So the group worked really hard. All 10 communities worked really hard, consulted with their planning commissions, members of the community. We did have a lot of representation from the citizens of Upper Mount Bethel Township at the steering committee meetings for the plan effort. I'm not sure that Judy Hinkle missed an entire meeting over the last 4 years or so when they were really meeting in person. But we had a lot of people participate from the township, much more so than any other community. So Upper Mount Bethel Township citizens have also been represented, and they're always allowed to speak, similar to your supervisors meetings this evening. So really what the group decided is we have a variety of types of communities, everything from historic boroughs to the most rural places that you can think of, and everything in between, and a great series of natural assets and other infrastructure like roads and even sewer and water facilities in certain locations, public sewer and water facilities in certain locations, schools and other things. So the idea is that we have to balance all of those things. There was a strong consensus that what exists today is critically important in terms of the cultural assets of the area, but that some growth definitely is going to happen, and recognition of that. But then how does that happen? So they talked a lot through directing intense development, so larger scale development, things that have a lot more traffic, a lot more people, combinations thereof, that should go to designated areas of growth, and those should be in centers. Those could be in existing boroughs, those could be in crossroads villages, places where you have intersections of different types of uses, whether it's a village, more of a rural village center, or even along a transportation corridor where you already have development, and that you should connect those things along that existing infrastructure. The group really talked a lot about farmland preservation, protection of natural lands and water resources, and that those should be protected from development or disturbance in as much as possible. And then they even wrote in to encourage safety and protection of the water, especially at quarry sites, whether they're active or not. We heard a lot about contamination of water sources and the critical role that this whole area plays, especially Upper Mount Bethel Township, in the protection of drinking water, not just for local folks here, but all the way down to Philadelphia. So we got a lot of really, really good input on that. So I know these maps are very hard to see on that television screen for folks in the audience. I want to thank Sue. What she did is she worked with Mackenzie in our office. We have a set of 11 by 17s here. We also have a big set rolled up there in between Mr. Albert and Mr. Friedman. If you'd like to look at them, we're going to leave them for you so you can take a look at what's in those maps. So we went through and we mapped every little bit that we could find of using aerial photography, local knowledge and information, other public resources, all of the farmland in the entire Slate Belt, including Upper Mount Bethel Township. And then we looked at preservation high priority. So that's everything from Do you have it in an ag security area? What's the quality of the soils on those lands? And will it potentially be eligible for a person to decide to sell their development rights to the state or county if they should choose? And we created a series of high, medium, and low priority farm preservation map. That's one of the plan maps. And look at the plan maps like a layer cake. Don't look at them as just definitive in and of themselves, but look at how they play together. And the cake is always better when you eat it together, right? You want all the icing to go with the cake. So look at this as one of the layers that goes into the overall direction of the township. We also looked at your natural resources. We had done a natural heritage inventory along with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We had looked at, and what that does is it actually lets us look at threatened and endangered species, lets us look at acres that are in woodlands or farmlands, allows us to look at steep slopes, potential for landslides and other hazards that are potentially could occur in the township, and put that together in a series of conservation priorities. And on this map is high and medium priorities. You have an incredible amount of natural resources. You do not need me to tell you that. And so that is one of your strongest asset classes in the township. So that's then another layer in the cake. I'm going to go back to the future land use plan because that's important. But the second goal, and because I want to get to the other maps that led up into that future land use plan. We worked with the committee and they talked about how this area has a very high quality of life, especially in Upper Mount Bethel Township, Lower Mount Bethel Township, really the townships, and then the boroughs talked about how they view high quality of life, which is a little different than how people in Upper Mount Bethel would view it. So we talked about how do we really put that together in that cohesive plan. So we looked at things like economic revitalization. That's critically important to the boroughs, but redevelopment opportunities are also critical to not only the boroughs, but areas of the township. Power plant site would be a good example of that. That strengthening of the economy of the Slate Belt with a focus on the evolving needs of businesses in the community was important. Improving and maintaining the condition of existing development and honoring that there are places that are built up and that those land uses are as they are was critical. And because that maintains the tax base, residential base, and other things. Maintaining the existing character overall of the Slate Belt neighborhoods while increasing attainable housing. Attainable housing means that if you make X dollars that you can find a quality home to live in. So it doesn't matter if you make millions of dollars or you have hardly any money, you're unemployed and you're having trouble meeting your rent payments or meeting a mortgage payment or you're on a fixed income. It's everything in between. Like housing is something we all need, and that was recognized by the group as a key policy priority, and that we should work on all of those things together. That we should establish and maintain an accessible and interconnected Slate Belt area park, trail, and recreation network. And I want to show you the map for that. I know it's really small here, but you already have a lot of interconnectivity. But working on things like the Liberty Water Gap Trail coming down from the north and going on along Route 611, or working with the county on the Northern Tier Trail, were all key priorities. I think another thing that the group identified, which was fantastic, was they recognized the asset of the Delaware River as a water trail as well. You have a lot of activity on the water, and that's an important part of your Parks, Rec, and open space network, in addition to your municipal park facilities, Appalachian Trail, and other things. The third goal, and I think this one was one that, honestly, we've done a number of these multi-municipal comprehensive plans. This is our fifth one since I've been at the commission, a little over 10 years. And to have your third goal be an efficient local and regional governments working together, really what that means. is a very, very important goal, especially since you have such a high growth pressure right now, and we don't see that subsiding. So the group made that a priority with the idea that the strengthening of municipal financial stability be at the heart of that, along with providing sustainable and efficient community services. And that's everything from schools to EMS, to fire, to any sort of public service that you could think of, including public works. To reduce the impact of natural and non-natural hazards associated with more intense rainfalls, more randomness in weather patterns. You don't need me to tell you the issues that you're dealing with on 6/11 as a result of instability in the ground related to storm events. And so those challenges aren't going to go away, and so recognizing those and starting to prioritize those in a new way will help you then with your community management, as you have told us is important to put in the plan. You are required to have an energy conservation element per the state law. And the group said, yeah, that is a noble goal. It's always better to use less, with the theory that it would then cost less, and that there should be some awareness of that, and to promote environmentally sound and economical solid waste disposal and recycling. I feel like you guys teed me up throughout the whole beginning of the meeting to talk through then really reflecting those community priorities that you've heard throughout this evening. The fourth goal was a resilient transportation and infrastructure network. So that's all forms of infrastructure, whether you're talking transportation or you're talking sewer, water, and trash. Communities that have a more robust sewer and public sewer and water system really focused on this and how those services would be provided. We worked a lot with folks on the fact that you're going to see changing transportation patterns. Not only do you have more people living here and working here and getting around and going to places they need to go, but now you have a new potential for a job center to be built. So that's going to have a whole other transportation profile than you've dealt with in the past. So how do you position yourself to ask Lehigh Valley Transportation Study for more money? How do you position yourself to work with the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation? They own a significant amount of road mileage in your township. And how can you work with them a little bit better to get the responsiveness you need as you have to evolve your transportation system with this growth? How do you do that in a way that doesn't build it and they will come to then undo some of the other things that you wish to protect? And so really the plan turns out, if you wanted to sum up the plan in the simplest way, it's balance in all things, right? You're going to have to make some tough choices along the way, but how can you balance those out, and how can the general policy support your decision making in the township and through your various boards and committees that feed up into your work? So we talked a lot about connecting walking and biking trails and using those to connect communities and neighborhoods and popular destinations. I believe, and this is, I personally believe this is how strongly I feel about it. I think you guys are this massive gateway into one of the most important national heritage and recreation areas in the nation with the water gap. There is such an opportunity to leverage, well, to protect that natural asset, which you do work hard on already, but to leverage those recreational assets, especially if you can get the Liberty Water Gap Trail and the Northern Tier Trail connected in with the Appalachian Trail, and really have this phenomenal tourism destination if that's the way you choose to go. But that's going to take a lot of hard work and years of work. You're going to need outside investment to do that. And so the idea of this plan was that you could set the general policy so you could decide, yeah, we're going to work on that now. Yeah, you know what, we want to work on that, but we need to prioritize these other things first. And it was designed to give you flexibility in that. So, you have a lot of challenges, new ones are going to crop up constantly, and how do you tie all those together? And that's really what a comprehensive, or what a lot of places, a lot of states call general plans. Pennsylvania, they're called comprehensive plans, which honestly is a little bit better name because you kind of look at everything and how the puzzle fits together. One of the big issues was there's not enough land service up here, and so as your job centers grow, as your population centers grow, what's the reasonable amount of transit that you can get? How you work with Lansing to make that happen? How do you have safe and reliable sewage disposal, water supply for all persons where you need it? And that could be on-lot systems as well as your public systems. So you get the idea of infrastructure. We tied that in with an assessment of your entire road network. Didn't matter who owned it, we wanted to look at the roads. So counties can own bridges, but they don't own road networks in the Lehigh Valley. Really, I think Montgomery County is the only place in Pennsylvania where counties own small sections of road, but don't quote me on that. Very, very few counties, if not just one, have road ownership. But counties, the state, municipalities, you all can own bridges. Even private sector individuals own bridges, right? Townships, boroughs, cities, they can own roads. PennDOT owns a significant amount of your road mileage. So how do you tie that into your existing land development today? And we really drilled down in that. And that's why we have what we classified as different types of centers. So that's based on the intensity of the uses and the actual land uses around them, like how many housing units do you have around there? How many businesses? Is it a mix of those things? Do you have active industrial around there? Is it more lower density and what they call in transportation land a lower order road, which would be more like a local connector? So we looked at how places that take more traffic all the way down to places that only take a dozen or so vehicles a day, how they intersect to create a network. And that's where some of the policy comes in. The fifth goal was for a strong farming community. Again, you have the greatest percentage of farmland in the entire county, in the whole Slate Belt area. Lower Mount Bethel and Plainfield Township have some of the more significant acreages of agricultural lands, but Washington Township, Upper Mount Bethel Township, you also have a really strong farming community and a significant amount of farmland as well. So they just have more in acreage. So I think that was one of the cool things when we were looking at how many acres of this and how many acres of that we have. And we actually have an assessment of that in the data companion. And I encourage you to look at it because it tells you how many acres you have in different types of things and how that relates to your neighbors. But the one thing that really stuck out with the group when everyone was discussing this is, yeah, you know what? Certain communities do have more farmland than others, but the communities that have maybe a medium amount, more like Upper Mount Bethel Township, that in some ways was a stronger part of their identity than maybe other communities. And so it was a really interesting conversation on how everybody kind of relied on each other. Farmers may have farmland in one township, but they also own or lease farmland in another township, very similar to people may own a house in one community and own another house that they're renting out in another community. And we talked about the relationship between business, the agricultural community, which is a form of your industrial economy. It's the OG industrial economy, right? Farming. And how all of those uses related. And so really the group said, hey, we want to promote farming as a community defining industry and a component of our identity. And even the boroughs said that that was important because it coincides and relates to their identity and how they were the traditional centers of commerce and their traditional downtowns, while still having the more rural villages throughout the more ag areas, or in your case, you've got all the assets, from natural to farmlands to development. So another thing that the group talked about was the potential for agritourism and to support farmers and farming, and then people who would even buy agricultural products and turn them into other things. So that was a key part of that discussion. And the sixth and final goal was a prepared student body and workforce. The Slate Belt communities so far are the only communities that we've worked with that have prioritized education and workforce to the level of a goal and taken it from policy and elevated it up. And I want to congratulate you for that, because really one of the biggest things that we found when we were doing initial data analysis was that a lot of the communities are aging. And in fact, both of your school districts have less students than they did in 2000, let's say. And so how do you balance out the quality of that education when, the communities still, the school districts still have the assets of the buildings, they still have to maintain them, but you're having less students. So how do you balance all that out? And we even had, the steering committee even had special meetings with the school districts, and we were able to talk to them about what that meant to them and tie that in with their school district plans as well between the Penn Argo and the Bangor area school district. So high quality education was really at the center of that, and then supporting land use planning efforts with the school districts to make sure that the tax base was supported through responsible growth and development as you define it. So now that you've created this draft comprehensive plan, we did put it out for the state mandated 45-day review and comment period last fall. And did get comments back and provide them to the communities. What it allows you to do next, and one of the reasons why the multi-municipal plans are so attractive is A, you got to have a comp plan anyway. Yours is over 10 years old, state law says you got to update it, right? So that's the second reason. You're working on it together, so it's lower cost than if you did your own plan. You're hiring us because, well, we're the county planning commission and we're not going anywhere, so we're always going to be here no matter what for you. And it helps us make sure that our goals at the county align with your goals. So it's like the ultimate way to work between the different areas of government. So that's, a few reasons why, but the one big thing that all the communities have been telling us all the way along that they really like about this is it opens the legal opportunity, and it's the only way under Pennsylvania law to do this, for you guys to share zoning uses. Right now, if you have a single comprehensive plan, which you do, it's for just one community. The state law is very clear, and the courts have held this up many, 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 many times, that you have to have every conceivable use known to man. So you have to have those, they call them LULUs, or land uses that nobody really wants, right? So where are you going to put those things like the strip club or the strip mining operation or big industrial parks or other things like that that may be controversial? And I could go down the list of things that people, like an incinerator plant, things like that, that are very controversial. Right now, you have to have at least 2 parcels that allow all of those things. So if you all 10 adopt this joint comprehensive plan, you can maintain your legal rights, have your own zoning hearing board, decide what goes in your zoning ordinance, you maintain all your rights. I repeat, you maintain all your rights. But you can go through a next step process only after you adopt the plan and an implementation agreement with it that says, okay, we may not want those 3 uses, but these folks over here already have them, or they're okay taking them. And so then we can say, you know what, we've got it over there, so we can take it out of our zoning code. Now, the northern Lehigh communities, if you draw a straight line from here towards Lehigh County, you live in this corner, I live in that corner, right? So I live in a similar type of community to what you have here, and I love it. And so what those northern Lehigh communities have done, there's 6 of them up there, is they're going through the zoning sharing use process now. It's the second step after you adopt the multi-municipal plan. They're saving about $60,000 versus individual zoning code updates and doing that by hiring one consultant, which they've done. And now they're going through a series of iterations where they're looking at all their zoning land uses, all their definitions. They put them on the chart to end all charts. And they're going through and saying, all right, we'll take, Heidelberg Township will take this, Lynn Township will take that. And they're going through that process right now. The beauty of them going through that process right now is if you want to see it, well, I can get you in, right? it's not, these are public meetings. I can get you connected with the supervisors there, with with the steering committee members that they have that are non-supervisory, so you can actually see the process as it happens. This is their second multi-municipal comprehensive plan. Their first one they did was about 12 or so years ago. They just adopted their new one last year and started with the zoning code update immediately after that. But they're all doing the same thing, maintaining their autonomy. But this is the legal way for them to say, you know what, Weisenberg Township already has an industrial district along I-78. The rest of us don't want one. Slatington already has high-density housing. The rest of us can't really support it because we don't have the good sewer and water for those higher density types of things. And so they're going through that process now. But if you're interested, you can see how all of that plays out before you would decide to try it yourselves. And I think that's the cool thing about the timing of where you're at now. So we set it up in the back of the plan where there's some immediate actions, some short-term and mid-term actions throughout the 10-year lifespan of your comprehensive plan. I won't run through these because I know it's really, really long process, and I've hit the major ones already, and we've talked a lot this evening. But the first thing to do is decide if you want to update this plan. I know I'm here tonight because you got some new supervisors. They weren't necessarily involved in this. Sue and I are available to sit down with you if you would like to have your questions answered, have any further detail. You are always welcome, whether you're a steering committee member or not, to attend any of those steering committee meetings. They're actually really good dialogues. But the communities last year, because the 45-day process ended right at the fall and then everybody's going into budget season, everybody talked about going and starting the adoption process the beginning of the year. So that's another reason why we're here tonight. A short-term action after you adopt the plan would be then to start working on your zoning. You have 2 years to see if your zoning is consistent with the new comprehensive plan or not. If it isn't, you should just try to bring it into conformance. Again, the bigger opportunity is to share those uses. And your medium-term actions are everything from supporting the redevelopment of the Bangor downtown district, or continuing to support the revitalization of Wind Gap, Penn Argyl, some of your villages and the like. And then we were talking a lot about, well, then how do you actually do agritourism or tourism in general? Talking about how we need to start meeting now because transportation money is slower than molasses in January. We plan out 25 years, but we revise that plan every 4 years. So if you think you're going to need something in the next 10 to 15 years, we need to talk about it now so we can slate it into that 25-year plan and then try to move it up as quickly as possible. If you need federal or state dollars, they've got to run through this very prescriptive process. And so we need to start getting you into that now so you can start to work towards implementation of those. So again, where we are right now is public meetings are done. Should you choose to adopt the plan as it stands now, you would have to have a public hearing. Then you would have to adopt it by resolution, and we'll follow up, Sue and I will follow up with a written process, example resolutions of how other communities have adopted these plans. And then again, within 2 years of adoption, you just want to make sure that your ordinances that govern land uses are consistent with the plan. I mentioned before, if you haven't already appointed somebody, we need a new member from Upper Mount Bethel Township. And the next steering committee is next week on February 1st at 7 p.m. And Penn Argyl Borough at the Borough Hall has been hosting them. But again, anybody is welcome to attend those meetings. They're public and they're advertised. You can read the draft plan, data companion. We set up a project website for you at planslatebelt.org. Again, that's planslatebelt.org. And if you have any questions at all or want to talk further, you can reach out to Sue or I. And we'll be happy to speak with you.
Great, thank you, Becky. And thank you, Sue, for all your work too. Supervisors, any questions for Becky?
No.
I know it's pretty involved, And we've been going through this month after. It's a lot to digest in one night, sitting up here going what we've gone through, but we've been going through it month after month. And like I said, I have Becky here so she can talk to the new supervisors, but we'll discuss it. And thank you for coming and being patient. So.
And we'll leave a copy of the data companion, the plan, the PowerPoint, and again, you have the big maps, so if people want to come see them, they can view them in hard copy as well.
Is there a deadline we need to let you know this by?
It's your plan.
Okay.
It's on your schedule. And that's why in the PowerPoint we said, you really want to act on this as soon as possible, but we think since it's 10 communities, it's going to take a number of months to get that done.
Okay, thank you, Becky.
Thank you.
It's pretty tough getting the townships and the boroughs together. Yes, Mr.
I was just going to ask, is there a resourcing plan that went along with this as to projected revenues and costs associated with putting the plan together?
Well, we set up a budget as part of the plan effort, and so from that we have to stick within the budget to get the plan done. You have to have a plan, right? So you got to do it no matter what.
Who would go after the federal dollars? Is that something that the LBPC would do, or how do you envision that coming together?
Yeah, I could teach a PhD class on this now. I'm trying to figure out how not to give you an answer that's 20 minutes long, but basically, yes, just call us.
Directly, or is it something else, grant?
If they are not grants, they're formula funds directed by the United States Congress to the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation and then allocated by formula to the regions. But the state legislature has to match it.
Defense Production Act Title III monies? Mostly for commercial, but it could be used to support a plan like this.
I haven't specifically. I know we deal with the federal allocations that we have through the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, or whatever everybody calls the bipartisan infrastructure law, because those are the formula funds that we manage with after the LBTS, the Lehigh Valley Transportation Study is taken action. It does not.
It does not?
No, it comes out of the U.S. Department of Transportation at the direction of the United States Congress. And they changed the rules with the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. So it's a different game than, well, I should not say game. I apologize for that. It's a different formula than it was even like 4 years ago. That actually has some benefit for this area because we need to invest at least 40% of certain asset classes, and there's and again, I apologize, but there's budget lines in the Lehigh Valley Transportation Studies budget. I work for the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission, but we manage the Lehigh Valley Transportation Studies. So basically, I'm accountable to two boards with different sets of bylaws. So it's almost like a two-part agency, which isn't uncommon in a lot of places in the U.S., but it's a little different. That's the federal part of our role. Lehigh Valley Planning Commission is the by-county part of our role.
Commercial investment at all?
We don't do economic development. We're prohibited from doing economic development. We do infrastructure investment, specifically transportation infrastructure investment, and then neutral assessment of land development work, and we really provide what we call fact-based optimism. I'll channel one of the people from Lehigh County, data beats BS, and we work in data. Thanks.
Okay, thank you again.
Thank you. What I'd like to do is I'm going to call a 5-minute recess so everybody can take a bathroom break, cigar break, whatever you need. I do want to table a couple things because it is getting late and nobody wants to be here past midnight. So under Part 6 action items, Nick, the 2024 fee schedule resolution, does that need to be on for tonight?
No. He says no.
No?
Okay, MC funds doesn't have to be on.
Embassy funds does not have to be on?
If you want to make money, yes. If you don't.
All right, then
It's a quick yes or no, really.
let's keep it on. We'll keep that one on. advertise code adoption ordinance.
That's just really selecting a date when you want me to advertise. We have an extension through the end of February to adopt the code, so you just have to say advertise it for this day or time, twice a week for 2 successive weeks, and then it'll be on. So if you want to say, well, let's advertise it for the second meeting in February, which I think is the 26th, if I'm not mistaken, be within the time frame, and that's all you need to do.
Let's keep that on. Let's keep that on.
So that's all you need to do.
What about code of conduct?
That was a code of conduct I was given for the girls softball.
Well, that's got to stay on.
League.
Yeah.
So
that's got to stay on.
so that should not be very long.
Number one should be interaction.
And then,
Voting on the fee schedule.
yeah, no, that,
You shouldn't have to take that out.
okay, we'll keep that on. So everything under number 6 stays on. Letter of support for LERTA stays on. I'm gonna make a motion to table number 2 and number 3 under part 7. Can I get a second for that?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. And then I'm gonna make a motion that we table, number 5 and number 6, which are I'm sorry, number 4, number 5, and number 6. So that's a Graziano agreement and appoint the, PC solicitor and member of Lake Lindsay. I'll make a motion for that.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All right, we're gonna take a 5-minute break and then we'll come back and get through these parts quickly. Okay, thanks. Thanks, everyone. Okay, we are now on Part 6, action items. First up is the 2024 fee schedule, resolution number 2024-02. This is a resolution for township fees, costs, and expenses for, among other things, zoning permits, building permits, sign permits, miscellaneous permits, subdivision, and land development, and site plan review fees, uniform construction code fees, road occupancy permits, hearing and appeal fees, sewage review and inspection fees, copy and fax fees, and other related fees, costs, and expenses. Nick, anything you want to
This was prepared by Tina? Yeah, and Cindy. It's a resolution, so we just need to pass it and accept those fees.
Is there any change from last year?
Yeah, there's a few changes. I can tell you that Tina, we incorporated Scott Policelli, our SEO's fees into the fee schedule because he had a separate fee schedule. So we incorporated his into that. And I know the building codes, UCC, for the residential construction and for the commercial construction, she did make that a one fee instead of a percentage of a fee. That's really about it.
Any questions from the supervisors? Concerns? Okay, can I get a motion to pass resolution 2024-02?
I'll make a motion that we pass resolution 2024-02.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. 4-0. Resolution 2024-02 passes. Next up, we have Embassy Bank Funds. Nick?
Yes, I was looking at, with Diane, looking at our funds that we have, and two of them, we spoke with Fidelity, Dave and I, we had a meeting with Fidelity, and most of our money is in Fidelity, and we increased all the interest rates on all the accounts from 5%. And I realized that we have two accounts with Embassy, and the interest rates are like 1%. One fund has $363,214. That fund has actually had $360,000 put in there for Upper Mount Bethel Township Fire Department for their vehicle, which is still there, but there's logistics that has to be taken care of before they get that money. But since 2021, we made $3,000. So I said, Diane, this has got to be, something's wrong here. So we have another account that's just a reserve fund for the general fund. That's township money. It has $153,036. Has same thing, like 1% interest. So I called them and I said, this is unacceptable. And they came back with short-term CDs, three months to 6 months, which is fine, because both of these accounts are just sitting there so we can get access to it, with a 5.4% interest, which is way better for us, the township and the taxpayers. So we just need a motion from the township that they will accept the change, because it's already an accepted bank. We just need to, I can call the bank and change it from the regular fund to a CD fund. So that's up to the township if they want to discuss if there's any questions.
They're on a CD?
CD.
Certificate of deposit, but I don't know what CD is. Certificate of deposit.
Oh.
It's a CD, they don't know what, I guess.
Yes.
I know what a CD is, Mr. Rankin. What's the terms of them? The
3 to 6, it's a short term. I asked for a short term because I don't know what Upper Mount Bethel was doing with the fire truck and that other fund. if we ever need that money for something, we won't have to have access to it. So I asked for the shortest term, and she said 3 to 6 months, which is whatever fund, I would suggest 3, and you can keep rolling it over. And it's 5.4%.
I know some of you can charge a CD in beforehand, you have an interest penalty. They're not going to penalize the principal?
If we take it out early?
Yeah.
I wouldn't take it out early.
No, but if you had to.
There's a penalty.
I know, usually they penalize the interest, they don't penalize the principal.
That's what, I could ask them what the penalty is. It's not your principal, it's the interest that I've always heard, but I could ask.
Some banks penalize the principal.
Chief?
Christopher Finan, Mount Bethel Fire Company. Our truck hasn't even started to be built yet. They keep on pushing it back. Now there's talk that we're not going to see it till the end of 2025. And we don't have to middle through the end of 25. Just keeps on getting delayed. We don't have to make a payment on it. I believe it's financially till a year after it gets delivered. So we have plenty of time if you want to do something with that money. Yeah, we have plenty of time.
That's what you're getting at, right, Chris?
What?
You got to take a longer term.
Yeah, we have plenty of time until that first payment because you guys voted that money does not get released to us till that first payment is due, just before the first payment, but when that first payment is due. So, if you want, we can sit down and talk or talk to finance. We have plenty of time for it. So.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
So the term of the thing is moot now, so we have a year to play with it.
Yeah, if we have a year, you should get a better rate.
Yeah, we can keep rolling it over.
Okay, so no action at this point?
Well, you don't want to sit at 1%. You don't.
No, we have to change it from CDs now instead of.
Yeah. Okay, do we have a motion for that?
I'll make a motion that we authorize Mr. Graziano to change it to the CD.
I'll second.
Any other discussion?
May I say something, Mr. Chairman? Is the board comfortable in adopting this motion, not knowing whether or not an early withdrawal will affect interest, principal, or both?
Thank you, Mr. Soto.
Yeah.
It will.
But do you know if it affects? You don't have the. Do you know
I
what?
could ask. Yeah, I wouldn't make a decision. I'll come back to the board.
I'm going to.
That's what you're looking for.
Okay.
Then I'll rescind my motion that Mr. Graziano look into.
Okay.
You want to know what the penalties are.
And what the rates of penalties will be.
Interest, principal, or both?
I would take it.
You maybe ought to be looking at money markets. If you check the 10-year note, the 10-year note is now over 4%. Rates seem to be going up, and the Fed seems to be encouraging to go up right now. So, you probably ought to be looking at a money market that you can take it out at any time, and you could be looking right now at somewhere around 5.4. Too bad we don't have Marty Fincher here. He was the money guy. He would know exactly where to go and what to do.
All right. That being said, let's move on.
I made my motion, so another second,
Has it been seconded?
I made the motion, Mr. Graziano, look into moving into the CD.
No, speak up.
I made the motion that Mr. Graziano look into moving the funds into a CD and report back to the board as to Mr. Karasak's suggestion that we get the specific rate and penalties for interest or principal withdrawals at an earlier, it's withdrawn early.
All right, is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Advertised code adoption ordinance. Ron?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The township has been in the process of attempting to prepare a code of ordinances for the township, which basically is a compilation of all the ordinances that have been enacted and other resolutions and laws, etc., that are all over the place in the township. Some in the old lockup, some in the garage, some in the office, somewhere else, to get it into one book like this. This is the Smithfield Township Code of Ordinances. Everything is in one book, from adoption to zoning. And they have all the ordinances here so that if someone wants to look for something, they don't have to look all over, they just come to the code book, and that's where it is. So it's not adopting any new law, you are simply putting the ordinances and other laws of the township that are scattered all over the place into one book. That has to be advertised because it's going to be an ordinance to make this code of ordinances law, and I just need a date for adoption. Cindy has been able to use her magic and get the adoption date pushed back until the end of February at the latest in order to get this adopted. So you just need to tell me when you want the adoption date to be secured, so I have enough time to advertise. Again, I have to advertise once a week for 2 successive weeks, no earlier than 30 days, no later than 7 days before the public hearing, and also put an advertisement in the newspaper, which can be very costly. I already prepared a template of that advertisement. It's 4 type pages, so I can imagine how long it's going to be in a newspaper. But that's what we have to do if the township wants to adopt this code.
So if we set it for February 26th.
Should be fine.
Okay. Okay, I'll go ahead and make the motion that we advertise the code adoption ordinance for Monday, February 26th. Would it be right before our supervisor meeting?
Well, it would be adopting an ordinance no different than you would adopt any other ordinance. Normally, I advertise that the public hearing is the first on the agenda, so that you then get the public hearing done, and then it goes on to the action agenda for adoption.
Okay.
So that's how it would be. I don't suspect there'll be a lot of concern about it, if you know what I mean, because again, all we're doing is just making a new book, but who knows?
Okay.
But that's how it would be set up.
All right, so I'll keep my motion to advertise the code adoption ordinance for Monday, February 26th.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Ron, code of conduct.
Code of conduct, I was given a code of conduct for the township girls softball organization, and whoever prepared the code, they did a very good job. It was thorough. It covered the issues that I believe should be covered. I've added some comments based upon what I believe should be added, not even so much as a lawyer, but as a dad who had 3 girls going through the Upper Mount Bethel program all the way through playing D2 softball. And I said here about, there's an email that I did on January 14 that talked about whether there should be some rule about covering earrings. I remember when the girls played, they had to cover their earrings and stuff, so they didn't get hurt. And if you were catching for a pitcher warming up, even if you weren't a catcher, you had to have all the catcher gear on so that you didn't get hurt, etc. There's even something in the code of conduct about smoking, and I'm saying, okay, well, if we're going to put that the players should not be smoking, I'm not sure the range of age here, but if they should not be smoking, then we should probably put something in about no vaping, no chewing tobacco, no canned tobacco. Might as well put that in there if we're putting smoking in. I'm not sure why we're putting smoking in, but that's where it is. There was a section about the bullying, and there should be no bullying. And I said, well, there should also be no verbal bullying, as opposed to a person's physical characteristics, height, weight, race, so on. That was not in there. I think that should be in there. And then the code talks to about a board of inquiry, that if someone does something wrong or violates the code, they have to go before the board of inquiry, and I don't know if there's any protocol established. Who is that board? When, how does it meet? What do you do, etc. So those are just some comments with respect to that code.
Okay. But overall with the code, you're fine with it?
I'm okay with it. I think, again, whoever did it, if it was Stavros, if it was a compilation of the rec board, whomever, they did a good job.
Good. Any questions from the supervisors?
So you can adopt it as is, and we can add the other things if you wish when we have a little bit more time to discuss.
You can amend the code whenever, right?
Yeah, sure you can.
Okay. Okay, do we have a motion to adopt the code of conduct?
Make a motion to adopt the code of conduct with the amendments as needed.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, 4-0. Part 7, letter of support, Lamont McClure, Lerda. This came up and I put it on the agenda. Lamont McClure had reached out to me and asked if Upper Mount Bethel would be willing to support his repeal of the Lerda ordinance at a county level. I told him I would put it on the agenda and we would discuss it. So I'm opening the floor for the supervisors on thoughts, concerns.
I'd like to see what his specific recommendations are before I vote on anything.
Yeah, I did ask him that because he did say he was coming up with a new draft that would favor manufacturing. I asked him about that and he said, well, it's still in draft form. So my thoughts here right now is if we send a letter of support, we don't know how the draft is going to favor manufacturing plants over warehouses. And I too would like to see, I would like to hear more about it because I don't think I can make an informed decision.
Yeah, we need to hear more. So I'll make a motion we table this until we get more facts of what he wants to put in his motion.
I agree.
Okay, Corey seconded it. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 4-0 to get more info. We've already tabled 2 and 3 under part 7. So I'll jump to part 8, table items. Nick, community park bathroom update.
Okay, I went with, I think Monday, meeting with Justin, our engineer. I spoke with the board already, the Park and Rec board, and told them that John wanted me to, our chairman wanted me to take over getting this bathrooms in. So we went to the park, Supervisor Dave Freeman and Justin Coyle, and as you hear from the letter that Stavros put together, Justin says that the cat barn is viable to put the bathrooms in. Justin is our engineer, so the location is perfect. I'm not an engineer, so I'm not going to comment on it. We have plans that are from 2021, I believe.
Yes.
Yes, and they're good for using for grants, which we need. The only problem is that that Stavros mentioned that there was other bids that were taken. Any bid that is over $23,000 needs to be done by a formal bid. So I don't know if Attorney Karasak would comment on it, but I don't think we could use those bids because they're over $23,000. This is going to be about $150,000 plus $100,000 in fixtures. So it's going to be about a $250,000 to $300,000 project.
I'm not sure what other bids you're talking about, but certainly anything over 23.5 or whatever the new number is.
Right, you have to use I think it's 23.5. Anything over that has to be a formal bid.
Yeah, you have to put it out for bid.
Yeah, so there was a mention about it.
And you can't break down the bid just to try to get
Right,
under the
correct.
bidding amount. You've got to put the bid out.
Correct. There was numbers that were brought out in the letter that unfortunately we we can't use them. Right now, this is a viable plan, according to Justin, and he is our engineer. So if there's any questions, comments?
Nick, so what are the next steps here?
In common practice is the Park and Rec should make a recommendation to the board whether we should do this or not. That's another question for Solicitor Karasek, if that's common. I've been on the Open Space Board for 7 years, and anything that comes as a recommendation, obviously you don't have to take a recommendation, but Park and Rec has that ability also because this falls in their threshold for the park. So if that's correct.
Well, if you have been traditionally going with, or at least accepting the recommendation of the Park and Rec Board, then you should probably continue. Now, I don't know what their bylaws say. I haven't seen them. But even if the bylaws say the Board of Supervisors doesn't have to accept with Park, or they don't need any recommendation from Park and Rec, I still think it's a good thing to get so that you keep everyone basically okay and no one's feeling left out and no one feels that you're, ignoring them. The board may not go along with the recommendation, but at least they get one. So it's probably a good idea for socialness, if you will, to get one. Especially if that's what's been happening over the last 7 years.
Yeah, I don't know if we've actually been getting one. I'm okay with doing that. But I think we also have to understand, see, when the Park and Rec Committee came into place, I thought their purpose was for the events, planning different things for the park, but this is a structure that's for the township, and that's why I thought the supervisor would have more control. But I can understand, reach out to them and see what their thoughts are.
I'm not saying that you should not have that control. You always have that control as a supervisors. But in listening to Stavros's comments, etc., maybe it might be a good gesture to hold out your hand and say, we're going to listen to what you say on this project only, though. It's not going to be something that's going to happen all the time. It's just, it will be on an ad hoc basis based upon how the facts are stated. Or you can say, no, we're not going to listen, we're just going to do it. This has nothing to do with what you're doing. That's a decision you guys have to make as a matter of policy.
So, and this is my thoughts, and I'm open to the other supervisors, but let's give them until, Cindy, if you can please put this on the agenda for February 12th, our next meeting, and that we need a recommendation by the Park and Rec Committee. I've got it right here.
It's the second.
Second Monday.
They meet the second Thursday of the month.
Where's the calendar?
I think the 8th, right?
Yeah, they'll meet the 8th, so that should be, right?
Yeah, so that'll be good.
Yeah, that's the second Thursday.
Yep. Yeah, just checking that there.
Okay, yeah, so just, if they can provide a recommendation before the 12th, that would be great.
And Mr. Chair, I did forward this to Stavros so he could share with his committee.
Okay.
So they have this.
Okay, and Justin, what are your thoughts? How quick do you think this could get up or built?
Assuming the board agrees with it, these plans were put together 3 years ago. We were out recently looked at the structure. We did not go inside again, but it has it. That's why we sent these pictures out as well. It does have a relatively new roof. The roof is in really good condition. It's the metal roof. Most of the structure is sound. It was sound the last time I looked at this years ago. There are some localized structural repairs that are going to be needed. Over the door, there'll be a new door installed, ADA accessible. The plans call out for four women's stalls, 2 men's stalls and 2 urinals, 2 sinks for the women's, 2 sinks for the men's, a little vestibule that you'd walk into with doorways into each. So you have like a little almost breezeway, if you will, to get in, till you get into each area. It does utilize the existing calf barn, about a third of the calf barn, and then the additional area can be still reserved for the township for storage and whatnot. There are some walls that would go inside, some studded walls, some insulation in the ceiling. The existing roof is a truss system. The trusses are intact. For all intents and purposes, the intention was to try to utilize the calf barn, rehabilitate it, retrofit it for ADA accessibility, provide the bathrooms, and still remain within the budgetary number. I believe we used 3 years ago about $100,000 to $150,000 for the work. So we're trying to remain within the confines of the budgetary constraints to get the project kind of back on track. The last couple of years, it kind of got a little awry. There was some expanded looking at using the barn, and it just kind of lost the scope of can we get the bathrooms in at the park to try to accommodate obviously the restrooms and help the children. And it isn't in a perfectly good location. It's kind of sandwiched between the playground area and the pavilion, so its location works out well. Down the line, there'll have to be ultimately a septic system installed and then connecting to the well, further west of the property. But this is just to basically get the infrastructure in, get it ADA accessible, and comply with the bidding laws and try to remain within that $150,000 plus or minus cost to get this up and running. Anything $23,000 or more, plus or minus, needs to go out for public bid. Anything $25,000 or more needs prevailing wage. So this will be under a prevailing wage contract for all intents and purposes. To answer your question, a long-winded answer, we should be able to getting authorization from the board. We should be able to put together plans, get the plans ready to go, revise the specifications, and get it out to bid within a few weeks. So you're looking at bids coming in. Assuming you advertise it in February, you could have bids come in sometime in March, and this is under construction this spring, early summer.
Great. Thank you, Justin. Okay, thanks for the update, Nick.
You're welcome.
Let's move on. Next up is seasonal road crew.
We tabled this simply because Supervisor Frieden wanted to interview the two candidates. I did have them come in for the storm on Friday. They were very helpful, and we put them to work. Our general foreman Lindsay was very happy with them, and took them out on the trucks and showed them our routes, and they helped out. Again, it's up to Supervisor Freeman. I mean, he met with them. I was in the conversation with them and everything, and I was satisfied with them, but that's up to the board. I really would recommend both of them to come on board as seasonal, and we could put them to work. Lindsay needs them. The highway department needs them. The township needs help. So I would recommend them.
David, thoughts?
No, like I said, I interviewed both competent individuals, and I think Lindsay, like you said, had them out on the road, put them through their paces. So that being said, and I would recommend that we hire these two as seasonal road crew members for now.
What's seasonal mean? I'm done in April?
You're allowed to work. You're allowed to work up to 6 months, and then the township has to make a decision whether to keep you on board or to leave you of a job.
So if I find a job in between this, I can pursue that because I don't know what 6 months is bringing?
You can leave anytime you want. But you also can be terminated anytime in that 6 months. There's no recourse. There's no recourse for you.
You have to understand, there's temporary, there's seasonal, and once again, on part-time. Part-time. So,
is there a possibility they can come on full-time?
Oh yeah.
They'll be working. They can work full-time if they want to.
But after the 6 months, it's
seasonal.
Then they can be hired full-time. Yeah.
We can, okay.
And they get hired before that, which the intentions were.
Oh, we can.
Oh yeah. Within that 6 months, you can make them permanently full-time.
And we sat down with the business agent from the Teamsters local, and he was fine with everything. So that's my recommendation.
I would only say, Mr. Chair, if you're considering appointing these two gentlemen, that you also make part of your motion whatever their fee or benefit or other structure is. And if it's just as per the union contract, okay, I'm not sure what that is, but don't just say we appoint them as seasonal workers. You should say what their wages will be and or benefits, if any.
You want to amend your motion?
I didn't make a I just made a recommendation.
I'm
I
just
didn't
saying,
make a
if you're
motion.
going to, if you're going to vote on that this evening, you should just make that part.
I can make that motion, no.
Okay, okay.
Then I'll make the motion that we hire Tom Pito and Brock Pearson as seasonal road crews to be paid the wages that the union has negotiated with the township.
Well, actually, it was, you guys agreed to the seasonal rate.
Seasonal rate, which is negotiated through the union, correct?
No.
No? All right, then the seasonal rate for the road crew.
And what about any benefits?
No benefits.
Okay.
And they understand that.
Okay.
Yes?
Just one question. If you guys plan on, let me come up with my If you guys plan on bringing them on and then bringing them on full-time in a couple of months, why make them seasonal? Why not just make them part-time?
This is like a probationary period for them. See if they work out with us. If they want to leave, they can leave. So.
Doesn't that work the same way with part-time though, or is it?
No.
No.
Yeah, part-timers can stay on board for as long as we want to keep them.
So seasonal.
So we negotiated with the VA because typically they would come in as probationary.
Okay.
And that's a 6-month period. So you could wait 6 months, but then they would go back, then they would get hired as full-time, and then they would get their rates. But on seasonal, we agreed that maybe we can keep them 3 months and get them on board quicker.
Oh, okay.
And avoid the probationary period for both of them. Because they're already qualified, they passed their drug test, they're all ready to go. That's why we brought them in the other day.
I understand now. Yeah, if they're well qualified, I would say bring them on full time. But I understand what you're saying now about making sure they're a good fit.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Friedman has made a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. And last up, Roman numeral 8 table items is the highway equipment loader purchase. Nick?
Yep, okay, we tabled this item again. Supervisor Birmingham, Chair, asked me to try to make this fit better for our budget, for our township. So I spoke to Lindsay and Dave, our general foreman and our assistant general foreman, and we went back and forth, and we looked at the loader that we do have right now, and we're looking at like what expenses we would have to pay, which would approximately be around $20,000 this year, because it needs a 4,000 hour service. That's about $8,500, and the tires, all 4 rims are rusted, and the integrity of them aren't that good, and they're recommending that we might have to replace them. Those rims are $2,800 just for the rim, not to install, not to take them off, take them apart each. So there's 4, we're talking about a $20,000 bill, and that's not fixing all the rust that's in the cab and on the surface of the unit. And if there's if they find, just like anybody else, you take a car for inspection, you go in for $80, and you end up spending $600 on brakes and tires, whatever. Same thing, but at a bigger price. So what we decided we did was we called up Groth, and we talked to the salesman. We said, how much would you give us for this unit? So they came up and they said they would give us $80,000 for the loader that we have, and they would keep the price of the unit till tomorrow, which will go up $12,000 tomorrow for the 24 price, because we have the 23 price. So I gave all the supervisors a comparison of a unit that we were gonna get in 2021 that was proposed. So just for argument's sake, that unit, the same unit that we're proposing to buy now was $215,000 and $215,900. And the 2023 price, 2 years later, is $274,000. So it's an obvious increase of $79,000. But the trade-in value was $100,000, so we lost $20,000. So the numbers are all going to go in the wrong direction. The more we wait, the more it's going to be more costly. So the difference is $194,900 is what the cost of the loader, and trading in the other one. We'll have a new loader. We're saving $20,000 this year on being conservative on how much we're going to have to spend on that unit to get it up to par. So that's where we are now with the loader. So instead of purchasing the loader, where we came to the board before, we changed it to this, since we can now rent a loader for the winter time, which we're using right now. That'll work better to keep it out of the salt, because the salt has just destroyed that loader. Unfortunately, that's just the way things are in the Northeast, so it's conducive to that. So it's a savings of $80,000, which will go into our account, and we'll have approximately $194,000 left over in that fund, which we could talk about later, where we can move that into the general fund and use it for bills and whatever payments we need to do. So in short, because I know you want to get rolling, if there's any questions, that's where we're at right now.
Thank you, Nick. Hey, Lynn, can I ask you a couple of questions?
Sure.
Come on up to our non-working microphone.
Okay.
So tell us, if you can, tell the supervisors why this new loader purchase is going to be beneficial for the township.
Well, I can mirror off of Nick. Basically, he's right. I think we're losing too much value if we don't do something soon. We need to have those repairs that he said, and that doesn't even count doing anything with painting or sandblasting, which was suggested by some of the audience, which is a great idea. However, I'm afraid with that machine, it's so rusted, it's just going to blow holes in it. The problem is that with our machine, in any machine or trucks that we have, there's not a lot of hours on them, there's not a lot of mileage, it's the salt. We don't have the capabilities of cleaning them properly here. PennDOT has a wonderful system to clean trucks. I was talking to Todd about it. He said their system is like $1 million just to clean trucks. We don't have that option, so we do the best we can. We try to clean trucks today. You know, it's the high was 32. You know, the water's freezing as fast. You know, we do the best we can to try to maintain our stuff. The problem is the salt. The thing with the new loader will have a little bit higher reach. I did put that in the packet, John. You might have it, but it's going to have about 14 inches more on reach, on lift, to get up to the new trucks. It should have better lighting on them. We do run these loaders at night for emergencies, so we'll have LED lights on it. The other side of the coin for the old machine, if we would have to take it out for repairs, this size machine we cannot haul with our trailer. It's not too heavy, it's not too wide, it's too tall. So for this machine would have to go to John Deere, we have to hire a truck to move this machine, which we've already done for repairs previously. Last year we had to haul it, might have been a year and a half ago, but we had to move it, we had to have an axle seal put in it twice. So we're starting to spend money into it. So my suggestion, I think Nick has a good comprehensive plan for the future for equipment. I think he knows what he's talking about. We're not, as far as I know, he's not touching anything in the machinery fund. That fund is building pretty good, and I think 5% as well.
Yeah.
So he wants to just let that fund build, and then we'll have that for future. That's all you can use that money for, from my understanding. It has to be for machinery. So that's a positive thing. It's not like the money's there. I just think that it's time to make the move. I wish they would have done it over 2 years ago, but I couldn't convince the board how much they were going to lose and what happened. Before COVID, the prices of the machines, the new machines were down, used machines were up. Now it's just reversed. So we're starting to lose a lot of money on the machine. It's not like we have to have new machines all the time, but I think for this, it's a machine we use all the time. It's used all the time, and you know, they are holding a pretty decent price for us. They gave us the best trade they could. In a couple days it goes up $12,000, and I think in the summer it goes up again. John Deere has another increase. So to me, I just think that would be the time to do it.
Thanks, Lynn.
All right.
Any questions for Road Foreman Lynn Mansley?
How long will it take to get this truck, or this loader?
This will be, the salesman said about 4 or 5 months to get the machine, and there'll be no money till then.
So they'll let us keep our old current one?
The old loader, they'll hold the 80,000 trade-in value as long as it's in working condition when it goes back. I mean, if the transmission goes out between now and then, we have to fix it. If not, you know, we'll get the 80,000. I did ask him that question. He said that's the way it works. You can't bring it back broke.
Yeah.
You know, but the condition that it's in now, the wheels are really rusted bad. You know, we're gonna have to dump quite a bit of money into it. So that's, you know.
Understood.
So we won't have the loader till May at the earliest, probably. But he said 4 or 5 months at least.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Lynn.
And you're welcome.
Any discussion amongst the supervisors?
You've exhausted all your, you looked at all the lease options, like municipal lease through John Deere or Cleveland Brothers, anything like that?
You can lease, but
like a fleet lease?
I spoke with the auditor, the CPA, and he says, why would you lease when you can buy? Because you're gonna spend more money on a lease. And you're not gonna lease something for 10 years, you're gonna lease it for, you know.
Yeah, like John Deere, I think is 5 years for the
Yeah.
maximum lease.
And you pay a lot of interest every year. I could actually give you the breakdown of it if you want it. This is the best deal that we can do right now with the circumstances that we're in.
That being said, does anyone want to make a motion to go ahead and purchase the highway equipment loader?
I just have one more question.
Yeah, sure.
And you're saying at the end, those 184, 289 is gonna be the ending balance of the
That's
capital?
conservatively, Jason.
That's gonna be the ending balance?
That's the ended balance of the fund that we have that was reserved for
the capital,
for the trucks and the capital reserve fund with the upfitting of the 5th truck. All those numbers are calculated in there, and I went very conservative on how much we would get for the 3 tandems, that we're gonna sell those.
Do you happen to know the current balance of it?
I can get that for you right now. I can get that for you tomorrow. Yeah. I mean, right now it's, we spent the majority of the money on the trucks, but we still have the upfitting money, but I don't want to give you the wrong numbers.
Okay.
But I can give you that. But that would be the balance after everything is said and done, paying for the loader. I already have the Mack truck salesman calling me saying that we have somebody to buy our truck, which I told him if it's not a municipality or a government agency, you can't just sell it to somebody, to a private agency. So, but he already has. There's already people looking for the truck.
And would we be interested in the John Deere Protection Preventative Maintenance 36 months or 3,000 hours for $14,263?
Are you asking me a question? You're asking the board? Or?
I'm not asking the board if they're interested in the preventive maintenance thing.
What do you suggest, Lynn?
I can tell you it's not a bad thing, because some of the things, like I'll say the 2,000 hour service, which our machine has 3,500 hours on it. Like a 2,000, they do valve adjustments and things like that. It's not just service and oil change and things like that. They do oil samples. It seems like a lot of money, but if you look what Nick put in your packet, the 4,000 hour service from John Deere was like 8,500 bucks just for one time. So really, it's probably not that bad. I talked to some of my guys. Troy is pretty mechanically inclined, and you know, it is a lot of money, but he thought that it would be beneficial. But you know, and that price holds. If that's them coming here, in other words, that price won't go up for, was it 3 years on there, Nick, I
Yeah.
think? So, whatever, or 3,000 hours, which,
It's up to 3,000.
up to 3,000, so it would be 3 years, so they'll service that. That won't change, you know, if their prices go up, or fillers go up, or oil goes up, that stays that price for that amount of time.
Okay, thanks, Lynn. Yeah, I think it's, according to Lynn's recommendation, it's good to have.
And that would bring the total to 209,163.
With 80,000 back on the other loader, right?
No, they're giving us 80,000.
They're giving us 80,000.
Oh, I see, yeah.
This,
You have to add that 14.
and then they're gonna add the 14, that's gonna bring it up to this.
It's about 209.
Oh, okay, got it, yeah, okay. Okay, any other discussion from the supervisors? Is there a motion on the floor?
There's a motion?
No, is there? Is someone going to put a
I'll make a
motion?
motion that we buy the loader under the terms of the October 27th, 2023 letter submitted by Grove Tractor and Equipment for a total cost of $209,163.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any objection?
No.
Say nay.
Nay.
All right, and that is it for Roman numeral 8 tabled items. Let's go on to part 9, public comment. This can be about, public comment can be about anything. Yeah, Chief.
Apologize, I was a little late. So there's a comment made in last meeting and this meeting about monies missing from a firehouse in the township. I spoke to John Birmingham and Nick a few days ago. When our treasurer went to close out 2023, they noticed that there was 3 missing gun show deposits. So our treasurer contacted the person in charge of the gun show, and they informed the treasurer that they had the money and they would take care of it. Well, we got our vice president involved, and we ended up getting the money back a couple of days after that, and ended up depositing it. However, we still contacted the state police because that same person was in charge of making reports for these gun shows and never provided them. We don't know how that slipped through the cracks. However, we wanted to make sure the township, we didn't lose trust with anybody and had a third party look into it. That's why we contacted the state police. As of now, we have 0 evidence any money was taken from the firehouse. We did get money back from this person in cash, but we have 0 evidence as of now any money was taken or stolen. So we are not going to say any of that. If the state police come up with something different, we will deal with it from there. However, that's where we are with it. The person has been disciplined through the firehouse, and is, I'll just say, is just suspended until the state police investigation comes back to us. Now, they could come back to us and say, there's nothing here, we're not going to do anything, or they could come back to us and say, yeah, we might have found something, we're going to kick it up to the financial wizards they have, I guess. So, just wanted to make that clear. This person has not been arrested, and there is 0 evidence that anything was stolen from the firehouse. Because there's been a lot of speculation, a lot of rumors, a lot of talk. People think they know what they're talking about, and they have no idea. It happens all over this township and everywhere else. You know, people hear rumors and just run with it, make up their own stories. So, if anybody has any questions, you can call myself or Vice President Dale Hanalong, and we're more than welcome to be transparent. Again, it was only dealt with gun show money. Everything else, our treasurer was able to zero out down to the penny.
So there's no taxpayer money?
No taxpayer money at all. So that was able to be zeroed out, and you guys will be getting a copy of our, basically, not an audit, but a copy of everything from a third party that we're going to give to that third party. The one good thing about our treasurer now, they do have an accounting background, so they keep records of all their deposit slips that they did, which that's one thing we changed. That person is going to be in charge of any deposit that happens at the firehouse now, our treasurer basically. So, and they keep receipts of everything. A lot of paperwork our treasurer keeps, which is good. That's what we need and what we want. So just wanted to make that clear with absolutely everybody. If anybody has any questions, feel free to call me or Vice President Delano. Thank you.
Chief. Just a comment, as far as I'm concerned, this is an internal affair by the fire company, which seems to be handled. So I'm satisfied until we hear anything else.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, can I just make a comment?
Yeah.
To make it clear, I double-checked the statute about the amending the budget. I don't know if that's going to be able to be done. The statute basically says it should really be done in January, because then you have to have a proposed budget adopted, and then there has to be advertisement in the newspaper, and then there has to be a 10-day inspection by the public, and then you have to adopt the final amended budget, and that all has to be done by February 15th. So just keep that in mind.
So the supervisors can talk about that. If we need to do a special meeting or something, I'm always happy to do that.
I just want to make clear that the February 15th is the drop dead date when you have to adopt the proposed amended budget. But before that, there's the proposed amended budget, and then the advertisement, and then inspection for the public itself.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Chief.
One quick thing, I'm sorry. With that whole opening the budget, I know it deals with the EMS things, okay? Please make sure the township is getting something out of the deal. You need an ambulance in this township or close to this township. Suburban is great. Their providers are amazing. They are hurting for people. So that's really what's affecting their service to us. And I'll say it, I'm not at Suburban anymore since I got my new job. I am on their list as part-time, but I will not be fulfilling that anytime soon. When their last truck is available, that truck goes to Forks Township at their station down there. It used to sit at the Grove, which was 10-15 minutes closer for us sometimes, especially to the North Bangor area. That's not anymore. Those crews go to the Fork Station and sit at the Fork Station, kick off their shoes, their uniforms. And sometimes it takes them 5 minutes to get out the door into that truck. So it's make sure this township gets something out of the deal. Don't just give Suburban money, please. So, and my recommendation, you have numbers from Suburban. This township is not ready to start their own ambulance company. It is too much money. Contract with a reputable ambulance company to come into this township. Unfortunately, we're not going to get EMS coverage for free anymore.
Are there any updates for?
I wasn't involved in that. Mr. Chief Potter was involved in that only because I worked for Suburban. That's why I stayed out of it. So, any updates on the?
I haven't had any talks with Lehigh Valley since they were talking to the merger with Jefferson, but I did have talks with them prior. And
So
Suburban had
nothing-
actually contacted them already about trying to get a helping hand. So I'll keep you updated. I'm not done with it yet.
Thank you, Chief. Anyone else, public comment? Yeah, come on.
Nick Puglisi, Scenic Court, up in Mount Bethel. The comment you made about these other townships that you were going to meet with in Jersey and PA to kind of talk about the development and what the impact would be on them. I think one of the first questions they would ask is, well, what companies are going to be in there? What kind of work is going to be done? What's happening? And since the text amendment was passed a few years, or 3 years ago, I think, and there are companies chomping at the bit to we got to get this thing done, kind of moving things along, but none of us have ever heard of who's coming in or what's actually happening there. So I'm hoping that this board will do more to be transparent about the kinds of companies that are coming in. The fear in this community is we don't know we're told just do it, and we're told you have to pass this amendment because something imminent is happening. We've got all this different, and we never hear anything about what's going to happen. Mr. Teal mentioned that there's 2 companies that are, chomping at the bit to get in, and we never hear what they are, what they're going to do. And so the concern of the citizens is, without knowing, why would you get behind it? Why would you support it? It might be good to also get we've got some smart people in this community, business people in different kinds of industry, different business, research and development. Can we leverage the people in this township to meet with you, maybe meet with RPL and say, these are the kinds of business we would love to see here. And can you help us get to that, end state? And I think then you would see support from the community instead of this, what seems to be blind opposition. It's just because we're afraid, we don't know.
Yeah.
So to the extent that you can help us know what's happening or what's going to be there, and especially with these other townships, they're going to want to know that too. Otherwise, what value are you giving them if you say, hey, let's meet, what's the impact? Well, we don't know what's going in there, so we really can't tell you anything. So what's the point of meeting?
Good points. Man.
So anyway, that's just
More often than not, we don't know what's going in either because they cite confidentiality clauses.
I don't know about that. I mean, that's what I've heard in the past.
That's what they told us.
Yeah, I'm under an NDA. Well, let's see the NDA, or let someone see the NDA, and just rather than saying that. That's just my opinion. Anyone else? Public comment. Ron.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
I gotta take this phone call, it's the monitoring system, I don't want the state police to come.
Yeah. Maybe you should have him come.
Yeah.
First, I want to compliment Nick on getting our money invested at setting there at little or no interest. It's a good thing to be doing. I wanted to point something out that kind of concerns me here. I have in front of me something that was filed by Attorney Christopher Spadoni, where he wanted me to be recused myself from voting on his zoning hearing board. And he was representing the concerned citizens. I know I asked this before, and I was told that wasn't true, but at the bottom of his page 2, it says, Attorney for Concerned Citizens of Upper Mount Bethel Township. And then on the 28th of December, he also sent a letter to Mr. Friedman and Mr. Birmingham. And evidently it was a friendly kind of letter because he says, Dear David and John, thank you for any help you can provide me in this regard. Currently I am a solicitor and I would like to be the solicitor for the zoning hearing board. Okay. And then on January 9th, he decided he didn't want to be any longer. But in the meantime, you had voted to make him the alternate township solicitor. So in the meantime, though, besides that, at some point in time, Mr. Friedman, you were before the Ethics Commission and found guilty. He represented you before the Ethics Commission, am I correct?
Right.
Okay. And then you said you would step down if you were found guilty, you'd step down from the Board of Supervisors. But I think in the meantime you've said, well, you're under appeal, so until that appeal is heard, you really haven't been found guilty. Would that be correct?
That'd be correct. You say you know the law, you should know that.
Well, I do. I just want to test you a little bit. Did he represent you in the appeal?
Yes.
Okay. What I find interesting about all this is, he evidently, for some time, was the solicitor to the concerned citizens. Now, the concerned citizens raised a lot of money, enormous amount of money, from people who just felt they didn't want River Point and they didn't want the trucks or whatever. And that's, it's America, they're entitled to do that. But was there ever an accounting for that money? Because as I recall, Mr. Friedman, you and Mr. Cole, Ms. Hinkle, Richard Wilford Hunt, you were the concerned citizens that the action was brought against by River Point, correct?
Repeat that?
Yes.
Thank you. The answer is yes?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. What do I need to repeat? She heard it out here all right.
Come on.
So I guess my question is that if the citizens here gave money, bake sales, rummage sales. They put a lot of effort into raising money, and it's America. They're entitled to do that, and if that's what they believe, they should do it. And that money was never accounted for. But somehow, Mr. Spadoni, was he paid by the concerned? Who's the treasurer of the concerned citizens? There is no treasurer. Thank you very much. Huh? I didn't say you did need a treasurer. I'm trying to get to the bottom line about the money. Just hang on a minute. Don't be so, you don't like hearing this. They don't want to hear this, the concerned citizens.
Finish up.
Yeah, no, I will finish up, I guarantee you. The bottom line is, everybody at the front table here, except one, was, again, Mr. Birmingham, I think I've asked before, you said you never were a member of the concerned citizens, correct? Which that's kind of interesting. Mr. Freeman certainly was. So the point I'm getting at is, all this money that was raised by people who live here, and a lot of times they struggled to give $50 or $100. Their money was never accounted for. But in the meantime, this same attorney who's representing you as a concerned citizen, he puts that on the bottom, also represented Mr. Freeman out at the Ethics Commission. I don't know whether he was paid by concerned citizens or paid by you. Doesn't matter to me. But there's an appeal. He's representing you at the appeal. What stage is the appeal? Because you are a public official, by the way.
Yes, I am. Briefs have been filed.
Okay. Where at?
Well, let's go. That's really not your concern.
What's that?
That's not your concern right now.
You're a public official.
I am a public
It's their concern. These are taxpayers out here. It's their concern. Yeah, you don't want to be concerned, right? The long and short of it is, all these people with the concerned citizens who gave money, and most of them aren't in this room right now. The ringleaders are right here, but most of them aren't in this room that donated money. Somehow there should have been an accounting for their money. But there never was an accounting for their money. But it's amazing where some of this money went that was never accounted for. And finishing up, if I could, back to the park, $8,000. I don't know where the $8,000 was, but there wasn't.
Let him wrap it up.
I'm out of order because you don't want to hear it? Now, my last question.
Wrap it up.
Last question is a point of order. You said you're going to go into executive session to discuss the appointment of the 5th supervisor, correct? You did say that?
That's what I said earlier.
Okay. I would have to ask the solicitor, who's quite a learned gentleman. This isn't a personnel matter. We're talking about a solicitor being appointed. That should be done in the public.
We're not talking about the solicitor. We're talking about the supervisor. The supervisor. We're not talking about a solicitor.
You're talking about the 5th supervisor, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that's a 5th supervisor. That should be done in public where you've done the interviews. I mean, in all good faith, shouldn't it be?
Well, obviously, I guess a board could do that, but I believe it is a matter of personnel. It's someone who you're going to appoint into a job, whether it would be a road crew person, whether it would be an office person, etc. I think they can discuss it in an executive session, but of course they have to come out and vote at the meeting.
But shouldn't we have the right as citizens to understand what it was in the back room they talked about before they arrived at that person?
And we can talk about
in all fairness, to open government. By the way, you people said you're open and transparent government. Open and transparent. That's what you've been preaching. Well, why not do this out here? Okay. The bottom line, you're going to do it. You don't need to put the gout in it. You're going to do what you want to do. Well aware of how you operate.
Is that it for public comment? All right, let's go. 3 minutes.
Just one thing. My name is Kevin Hamlin. I live Allegheny Road, 33. Thank you for taking your time with me. I know not everybody is considerate with everybody else's time here, as it's almost 11 o'clock. But most of the 3 hours has been spent bickering about stuff going back and forth in the past, not dealing with anything in the future. Almost all of it has been emotionally driven. I've seen almost zero statistics from this side or this side that actually supports anything that they're trying to say, other than this is what they want to happen and they're mad at the other side, right? So like, we need some form of order in regards to how these meetings are being handled. It's not fair to allow a single person to run away with an hour-long conversation with a bunch of data that we could just look up on Google or Wikipedia Like, we don't need basically a YouTube announcer telling us how stuff is supposed to be working based on their emotions. But stuff like this, talking about who hired a solicitor for a private organization, doesn't matter. You're not entitled to that. I'm not entitled to that. I don't give a crap. If it's their money, they're allowed, just like you're allowed to hire your own lawyer for whatever it is you want. If somebody hits you in the car...
Sir, you have to address the board.
Okay. Is this the board, or?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, again, not allowing people to basically get their time off because we all sat in the back, and we all have jobs, for 3 or 4 hours while you let people run on over the same topic over and over and over is not very productive. I've been to like 10 of these meetings, and it's the same thing every time. How many of our topics got tabled till next week or till next meeting because we couldn't get through any of them?
Well, it's difficult because you're also dealing with people's First Amendment rights. So I can't just tell people that you can't bring this up or you can't talk about it. If it was, and I understand you make great points. But if it was like a company and someone was the CEO could say, all right, that's enough, or we're not going to talk about that. But when you're dealing with First Amendment rights, I can't pick and choose. Hey, and I started to, saying that's enough on this debate, let's move on. But your points are well taken.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it. I thank everybody for
Thank
their
you,
time. I just hope we're all working through it.
We're gonna retreat to executive session. We'll be back out by 1 a.m. supervisor want to make a motion at this point?
I'll make a motion.
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we appoint Mr. Joe Torrey as our fifth supervisor.
Okay, do we have a second? I'll go ahead and second it. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of appointing Supervisor Torrey, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Okay.
No.
Okay. Next motion, I'll go ahead and make a motion. What's that? I'll make a motion that we, give me the last name, make sure I say it correctly, that we appoint Jonathan Erler. I'll make a motion that we appoint Jonathan Erler.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nah.
Okay, 3-1. Jonathan, congratulations. Okay, any other motions out of executive session? Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Before you do that, Mr. Chairman, I know it's very late, but let me just tell you, I'm looking at the Open Meeting Act, and the Open Meeting Act says you can hold an executive session to discuss any matter involving the appointment of any prospective public officer. So I think you were properly in executive session in this matter. You don't have to go to executive session, but I think you were properly.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Make that motion to adjourn.
I'll second it. All those in favor say aye. Chris, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris.